It's time. It's time for a new, completely unnecessary podcast for Wednesday, April 2015, alongside a very kind of I don't want to say homely looking Ian Ferguson.
I'm always homely looking.
I was going to say you look content and homely. I'm Pat Contry.
I am content.
We're going to hit you with at least 90 minutes to 120 of gaming, geek, and movie news and tidbits and your Q&A covering on the show. What are we covering on the show?
A bunch of stuff.
We'll be talking about GameStop accepting used retro games and systems again. Publishers fighting to keep abandoned games dead. The Storage Wars Nintendo games lot find on the latest episode. The Star Wars Force Awakens second teaser. A short review of the Daredevil Netflix series. The Batman vs. Superman teaser. Ian's so excited about that one. Olivia Munn cast as Psylocke. Fuller House announced for Netflix next year. And your Q&A. So what's going on in Ferguson land, Ian?
Well, actually, for once, I could probably say a lot. I mean, it feels like it's been longer than 2 weeks since we did the last podcast.
It does, doesn't it?
Vonnie and I went out of town to visit our friend Caitlin, and we went to Midwest Gaming Convention and Galloping Ghost Arcade in Chicago. Those were cool.
Mm-hmm.
The Midwest Gaming Convention was very cool because, or Gaming Classic, I think they actually call it. Because there's no panels or anything like that. It's a big vendor room, and then just shitloads of arcade machines and pinball machines literally everywhere. It's the first convention I've ever been to where I walked into a room and all they were selling was pinball parts.
Wow, I don't think I've even actually seen that, even at Portland. While there could have been one vendor, maybe, or maybe a second with pinball parts, it wasn't like an entire room full of them.
This was, so basically the bigger sellers, like if you walked around the main, what's the word I'm looking for?
Hall?
Yeah, the main like vendor hall. It was a mishmash and it was smaller booths, but the guys who were had bigger booths or were more niche had like their own rooms. So the guy there was a guy from Windy Gaming who had his own room, and I picked up my first Wonder Swan because I need another portable to get into. And then there was another room that was more specialized. It was all pinball parts. It was weird though because like I picked up pinballs there. Saves me a lot on shipping.
Sure.
But, like, they didn't sell, like, rubber and cleaner and stuff. Like, stuff that's integral to shopping a machine. And I could only wonder if it was specifically because they were bringing things that would normally be more costly to ship. Like, they had flipper rebuild kits and mechanisms and stuff like that. You know, solid metal pieces that would be harder to, ship. And maybe that's why they didn't bog themselves down with the lighter stuff. But it was very cool. And Galloping Ghost Arcade was basically everything I wanted it to be. 450 arcade machines, probably about 12 pinball machines. While I was there, I did try to beat the local record on Gorgar. They set up a camera and everything for me. Like, they're used to that. People set records there all the time. And so they just set up little GoPros. Like, if you ask them to, they'll set up a GoPro.
I need a GoPro.
And you just get to go. It was Glenn Danzig's Gorgar machine, too. Misfits? Danzig?
Danzig. Okay, I've heard that name.
Yeah, Jesus.
Well, you say Glenn Danzig, like I'm supposed to know that name off the top of my head.
You are supposed to know that name off the top of your head with the word punk in your title. You're supposed to know who Glenn Danzig is.
Oh.
Anyways.
Unnecessarily.
But I couldn't do it. But there was a whole room full of shooters, and it was cool because they were already, like, fabricating Mortal Kombat 10 arcade machines and stuff. Like, for tournament play. Because it doesn't really have an arcade machine. You fabricate one and you put a PS4 in one. Yeah. But, they were looking really nice. So, that was great. So, there was that. And then I saw a bunch of friends afterwards. I came back, and I've been playing Mortal Kombat 10 more than I thought I ever would.
Yay, Mortal Kombat. Love that franchise. I've been shipping out DVDs and consoles, and God, it stinks because I'm not big enough that I can have someone, do the shipping process for me, but not little enough that it's still not a big pain in the ass. So I'm still caught in this in-between spot where I got to ship out 300 plus stuff and within a couple weeks get back to the rest of my freaking life. So, I had an old printer. It was given me my father. It was like my dad used to buy those e-machines, I think, or bought one like an e-machine from what was it, like Best Buy's like E-Machine or something from
Yeah.
like 2005, and they gave like a free Lexmark $40 printer, and I've used that printer for the past like 9 years, and it did a good serviceable job. It was actually pretty quick for black and white, at least. It was fine. That's how I print my postage with, like, stamps.com, because not just, this isn't an advertisement for stamps.com, but it's not just you save money, you save whatever it is, like 15% on postage. It's the time. You don't have to stay in line while the freaking employees take their sweet ass time clicking as slowly as they can. And I've been at the post office 2 hours before shipping out DVDs. This, I can probably do it myself in like a half hour and just drop it off.
Nice.
And save money. But the Lexmark had to go because it was not good printing labels. And this is the first year I've done labels before, so I'm actually printing the postage on the labels and getting all done at once. So there was a printer, an HP printer, Photosmart 8250. I'd bought brand new at a yard sale with my ex. That was like 3 years ago. And at the time, it was like a $250 printer. So I was like, oh, I got it for like probably $40. I'm like, oh, this is great. I'll either sell it in the future if I don't use it, or I'll hold it and use it. So I decided I'm going to use this. This is like a full printer. And I really liked it because it has a separate black cartridge versus 5 different colors. So it'll last, in theory, a lot longer, and it'll be print. Because when it's an all-in-one, like the Lexmark printer I had, it starts at black,
your cartridge
it goes to blue,
Yeah.
then the green, and then to this ugly red, and you got to throw it out. So this was a lot better. So I go to use this. It's brand new, the cartridge in there. Plug it in. Does the first startup diagnostics, asks the language you're speaking while you're printing, everything else. And then it gets this error code, a printer error code, saying there's an ink system error with the code, like a long list. So I'm like, oh, this is strange. I'll go online and see what this is. So it turns out that a lot of people have this problem with an ink system error, usually when switching out cartridges. So what HP does, which I don't think all companies do this, they code into their ink cartridges an expiration date that the printer will read. And if the printer reads it being out of date, you can't print on the printer. So I discovered this, but there's a lot of workarounds you can do for this. There's a way to boot up the machine holding 2 buttons to sort of reset it and trick the system. Tried that. It displays like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 code, and you put it back in. It's the same error. Got a little studious, looked more, and then there's this method where you literally take the printer apart. It's a little difficult, to me, like 20 minutes, but you can do it without damaging it. Get at the lithium battery, because it has an internal battery, I guess, to store this information about what printer cartridge is in there. Take it out, or put it back in, or I took it out entirely, screw it, and then try it again, turn it back on, same error. I'm like, okay. Okay. So it has to be that the printer. I'll just order new printer cartridges. I'll just order them. It doesn't matter what it'll cost. I'll just order them because the printer only costs me $40. I'll just order new printer cartridges. So
you're still coming out ahead.
I'm still gonna come out ahead. So I go online, I order more printer cartridges, and they arrive. I'm like, oh, great, this is fantastic. This is okay. It wasted like 3 days. It came from California. New printer cartridges. Put them in. Get another error message. The error message says you must use the ink that came with your printer. All right. So I tweet. Now I'm a little upset because I've wasted like 4 days. And thankfully, I borrowed Frank's printer, which of course I bought for him. But if it wasn't for that, I would have been screwed.
Right.
In the meantime, but I wanted to use his printer because this would have been like very quick. In theory, this is a great printer. This is almost like a business level printer. It probably does like 30 pages a minute. So I decide then. Maybe not 30, 20 pages. So then I tweet at HP. I'm a little upset, saying I'm about to go office space on this. They tweet back at me with support saying, okay, what's your problem? I tell them the problem, blah, blah. They tweet back saying, oh, okay, it sounds like a typical issue. We'll just, this is what you do. Here's the phone number. We went back and forth. They probably saw me. I was an NES guy. They asked what was my favorite NES game. Yeah, I tweeted back Danny Silver's in the Heat, of course.
I saw.
So it was a little bit back and forth. It was like gallows humor because I was really upset still at the time. So they gave me a number to call. So I called the number. And then I'll leave a message. Rabia, I really respected the fact that it's not like I skipped over the fact that I first called customer service.
Right.
First called customer service. The first time when I first called customer service, his name was John. It wasn't really John, but his name was John. And then I told him what was wrong, and he basically said my printer was worthless. he basically said that I basically said, should I just throw this in the dumpster, this printer, due to this error message? And he basically said, yes, you should. We no longer support. He basically said we just no longer support.
Shit.
We no longer support the printer. We just don't support it.
Right.
So, but hey, you can buy another printer.
Hey, thanks.
From HP. Okay, then I went back on to Twitter again. Said, okay, one of the guys I guess was following me from HP support, and okay, this is a problem. They escalated. Great, escalated. I'm gonna get my own case manager. That's who called me, Rabia. Very nice, very sweet woman. Called her back the next day. All right, let's fix this. Let's get down. Let's fix this printer issue. Brand new printer, can't use it. Tell her what happened. I tell her original ink was out of date, so replaced it. Then the ink said you cannot use this ink. You have to use the original ink because I guess
because I was following it. It was something like a primer cartridge.
They claim that you have to prime the head of the cartridge by doing that. I don't know if that's true. I've never heard of this before.
No,
I think it's utter bullshit personally, but whatever. I think it's a way for them to control what's on the machine.
Sure.
So no one else can get the machine and sell it with other ink, whatever. So anyway, so Rabia, we go through the options. It's almost like it's not clicking in your head what's going on. To me, I already know this is a catch-22 about to happen. I basically say, Rabia, the only way out of this for me is you have to send me introductory printer cartridges that are not expired. That's the only way out of this. Can you do this? No. That's what she said. So she said, okay, she said this printer was sold from 2005 to 2010. We stopped supporting it like 3-4 years ago, but I'll talk to someone. Hold on 2 minutes. 2 minutes later, we don't have any of those cartridges. In my head, I'm like, you don't have any. You cannot have any.
Not in the entire HP.
But then I'm thinking anyway, it doesn't matter because those intro cartridges aren't available. They're not using any of their HP printer anymore, so they would have been expired anyway.
Yes.
So I'm like, Rabia, what are my options besides literally just tossing this out my window? Well, she said, you could try calling up a local electronics store or printer service to see if they have ink cartridges. Rabia, if I got new introductory cartridges, they would probably be expired still. She said, yeah, probably. Absolutely worthless machine I have sitting here. It's absolutely worthless because of this fucked up thing they did with expiration dates on printer cartridges. And I looked it up. They said, well, to maintain the highest quality and to make sure you don't gunk up your printer head. I bought the machine. Now, I may have bought it used, but someone originally bought it new. And if they wanted to use it, they would not have been able to. Thank God I never put this on eBay, not knowing this bullshit. Because I would have got a really upset person, rightfully so, saying, I cannot use my new printer. And they would have gone through the same week and a half process as me, finding out that there's DRM on printers.
I was just going to say, it's fucked up. You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, there's DRM on printers. There is planned obsolescence built into printers now.
Yes. At least for HP.
Because even if you bought that printer when it came out and it was new, you would reach a point in time where you would have the problem you had with expired ink.
If they bought that printer, I think the cartridges expired in 2011. So this was still available on the market new in 2010. Say they bought it, waited 7 months, try to hook it up, no good. They were screwed.
Yep.
Maybe HP then would have intro carts I could have sent, but it's still bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. So I basically end up spending money on cartridges that are worthless. I got to try to return them on eBay or just hold on to them. That's HP.
Just stick a straw in it and drink it like a juice box.
I took it apart like an engineer to try to get the thing working too. I was like, this is cool. I'm gonna put it back together, and it's like, God damn it! And even HP after that, the support, it's like. They even said it's time to go Office Space, and they're like, "Yeah, you might as well." They even realized that it's fucked,
right?
I
mean, it's cute that they tried to have good humor about it. At least the tech guys, because it's not their problem. It's not their fault.
No, it's not.
It's not their fault.
And I even told Rabia, I said, "It's not your fault. Your company has shitty practices with expiration of ink, which is absolutely ridiculous." I haven't heard of Brother or Epson or Lexmark doing something like that.
No,
never.
All right. Well.
We had a momentous occasion last Wednesday, two Wednesdays ago on the podcast, where good old Alan Thompson sent us a gift package with
candy,
with peanut butter cup eggs, lots of Dum Dums we have to take because I don't want them all, and also another treat.
Yeah. Okay, so Alan Thompson, my good buddy, regular Nintendo, included a copy of DuckTales Remastered on the Wii U. And once someone sends something to me in a friendly gesture, I can't not at least try it. So I need to preface this before I jump in. And for anyone who's hoping for me to get all sensationalistic and yell, it's probably not going to happen. So,
unless you try to do a let's play of it.
well, I mean, it also depends on how emotional I get as I start talking. Sometimes I don't know where my emotions are going to take me. So, to start, I hate questions about favorites. But when people ask me what my favorite video game is, I inevitably say DuckTales. It's not just a quick answer to get people off my back. It is literally, no joke, 100% my favorite video game of all time.
Of all time.
In my senior year of high school, I played it almost every day in an attempt to shave my time down. It was the only game I've ever tried speedrunning. I got down to 13 minutes. I know the levels front and back. There's just nothing I don't know about the game. So I am going to come at this, as I've always said, as a far harsher critic than most. So on to the game. It's made by WayForward, which is a company I don't have a lot of great love for. It's published by Capcom. And right off the bat, one of the first things you're going to notice is that it looks fucking gorgeous. It does. It does look nice. The sprites look nice. Controls. I'm going to hit on some of the basic things first before I go into other stuff. I had a lot of people who were iffy about the game bitch about the controls as they had played it at various conventions, saying it was floaty or it didn't feel right. I'm actually going to call foul on that. The game feels just fine.
I've said it to you when I played it. It felt
the pogo
fine.
Jumping felt fine. Even the way you can short hop Scrooge, which is very important. Even though you can short hop Scrooge is very much the original game.
Mm-hmm.
The music, for the most part, while the Nintendo version has one of the most lauded soundtracks out there, the versions of the music they did for this one are pretty good. So, in all the areas where WayForward usually shines, graphical presentation and music, this really worked. What I wasn't expecting from them was for the controls to work as nicely as they did. That's about where the nice things stop. The introductory level that they make you go through is boring and painful. They introduce mechanics such as button pushing and they're little things, but these little trap disarming segments.
Sure.
That just they don't fit into the game. The cutscenes, which everyone warned me would probably be one of my biggest issues, are just abysmally annoying. I appreciate the voice acting. You guys went out and you got the original voice acting cast and crew, and the voice acting is fantastic. But I don't need that in the game.
Does it break up the game for you, the flow?
It breaks up the game horribly because, honestly, there are parts where you will stop every minute.
Oof.
For something like that.
That's bad.
And you can skip the cutscenes, but the problem is you can't skip the cutscenes by pressing a button. You have to press start and then go to the menu and hit skip cutscene.
There's no option to just turn them off?
I didn't see. I didn't see one. So, and everyone says, skip them. I didn't see one that just turned it off completely. I think there might have been an update that lets you, so before people flay me, I will say that that's possible.
Well, this is August 2013. This is the first episode of the podcast, so this is the review that we're doing. So, there is no update yet.
So, anyway, you can skip them, but it still takes 2 button presses and then a brief second of delay as it transitions back to the game. It's not ideal.
Sure.
So I go through and I beat the first level. All right. The first boss was kind of fun. It's a Beagle Boy. This is the new level, by the way. This is like Scrooge's money bank, whatever. And the first boss is kind of fun and definitely kind of fits in the mold of the original DuckTales bosses. It's repetitive. You find the pattern. It's very easy. So I beat that. And I explore some stuff real quick. You walk up to a console, and it gives you a console like it does in the Nintendo game, and you pick, from the areas you want to go to. And then it's a cute touch. You can go into his vault, and as you beat more levels, more money gets added, and you can take a swan dive in. So there are cute little touches. But I had to play a level, and I had to play a level that I loved and that I know very well, and that has a lot of shortcuts. So I jumped in and I played African Mines. Like I said, I love that level, and that's when things went downhill. real fast. Immediately upon entering, they tell you to press start to look at a map. And I go, yeah, I don't remember these maps. This game was pretty easy to explore, and like...
Okay. So
you press it. So you press it, and you look at the map, and I'm like, no, this isn't the fucking layout of African Mines. So here's kind of how the game... So immediately what I wanted to do is I started moving through African Mines, and most people know this at this point, but there's that secret where Miss Beasley is, right? And she drops the ice cream down to you, and you can hop across the 3 frogmen to get to the big treasure chest, and then skip like directly to the boss, basically. So I go down to try to do that. And instead of just standing under Mrs. Beasley and getting your ice cream, you get another fucking cutscene where she talks to you about making sure you're getting all your health, and then she throws a bunch of ice cream and cakes at you, and then she runs away, and it's just completely not needed. It just breaks up the flow of the game. So I get to the edge, and I'm like, and I jump. I'm like, oh shit, these frogmen are still here. I'm like, boing, 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 sweet. And I get over there, and there's like a couple of diamonds and a dead end.
So they changed the level layout.
They changed the level layout horribly. And here's what they kind of did. They took basically set-piece rooms that people would remember from DuckTales. Okay? Just spots, like larger areas that people would remember. And they reworked them in a way that you have to go through every area of a level. The shortcuts aren't there anymore. The exploration is gone. The game is linear as shit. And by making you walk through everything, with all the cutscenes and that, even with skipping and all this shit, we're talking like half an hour for a level that probably should have taken me 10 minutes.
So they elongated the game, you think, unnaturally to seem like people are getting their money's worth.
They elongated it in a way that they didn't need to.
Well, like adding, like, I didn't like the minecarts shit at all.
No, I didn't. Yeah, because if there's one thing a video game needs more of, it's definitely fucking minecart levels. Yeah, no, that shit was awful. And the way they were, you can tell where they added stuff in and where Capcom stopped, because in the minecart levels, when you're on the minecart, and because I died a couple times, and you go off a jump, if you're on a minecart and you just press jump, you jump and you coast over to the next section of track. If, for whatever reason, that's the pit where the minecart's going to drop out below you and you have to jump into another one and you press jump, momentum doesn't carry you. You just fall like a fucking brick.
You have to jump before you hit the pit.
And you have to actually press over and do it, as opposed to the momentum.
Momentum stops.
Yeah, the momentum stops immediately.
Yeah, that was my biggest impression. I only played a couple levels on, I think it was like E3 2013. That was the biggest thing. Like, yeah, it's like you're playing the game and then all of a sudden, new game. Now it's a minecart, and it's like it didn't feel right. That was my biggest thing.
It's so easy to see where the way forward starts, and like I said, the Capcom stops. And all it's nice. It looks okay, and for the people who enjoy it, I get it. You probably, and this is not going to sound snobby, but you probably did not play the game every day your senior year of high school.
So do you recommend it at the end?
I think no. If you're really into DuckTales, I don't necessarily recommend it, because it suffers from all the problems that I think most way forward games suffer from. So I can't really recommend it that thoroughly.
Sure.
But like I said, I can't fault the people who liked it. They're just remembering DuckTales differently than I do.
Or may not have the same love or...
Right. And my last statement on this is, what I would have loved to have seen, which probably wouldn't have sold as well, just recreate it with nicer graphics. Now, I know that doesn't sound great to a lot of people because it's a game that can be beaten in short time. But why not just do what Capcom was doing with like other smaller titles? Just put DuckTales 1 and DuckTales 2 together without any fucking changes, with the graphical overhaul that WayForward did. Give me a double pack of 2 really good platformers. People are going to feel like they're getting their money's worth, and then WayForward can still show off their artistic talents.
Well, there you have it.
That's the end.
So Ian, with a very, I guess, average review at the end of the day. So, man, with the announcement of Ben Affleck being the new Batman, this has been a really good first CU podcast. But I think we should move out of my bedroom and go to the game room. What do you think?
Fuck off. So, hey, we just talked about DuckTales. Why not roll right into what everyone has been bothering us to talk about?
You know what, guys? If there's anything that we know is a bread and butter to the CU podcast, it's retro gaming news.
Yeah.
So you think that when we hear about GameStop starting to accept and buy and sell used games...
that we're not going to talk about it?
Of course we're going to talk about it. So we appreciate the 1,000 tweets and messages that I got on Facebook and Twitter.
It was funny because some people were like, is there going to be a podcast soon about this? What are we going to call an emergency forum to discuss?
We did do an emergency WrestleMania one last year.
Yeah, that's true. But anyways, so GameStop is being dumb. I'm going to sound biased, but I think the points I can make here and the points that Pat will probably make will show everyone why this is really fucking dumb.
They're going to start doing this in 2 locations.
New York
pilot
and Alabama.
Birmingham.
And there's going to be about 250 stores that are doing it. And as of right now, from what I understand, you can go in and sell your old systems. And it was like Nintendo,
NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, PlayStation, N64, and Dreamcast. So you're talking, late 80s to up to 2000 era.
So they will take it, and they're going to send it to a refurbishing plant. And what they're going to do is from there, they are going to sell the titles online.
After testing and repairing.
Yes. And something I did notice that I liked, replacing the batteries. Excuse me. They will not be sold in stores, which is something that is actually going to greatly affect what I say later. You can go in and you can have an associate help you browse the games online if for whatever reason you can't fucking browse an internet page. And they will send them to your door.
Which is exactly how Funkoland used to do it in the late 90s, by the way.
Yeah. So there's a couple reasons why I think this is fucking horrible.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why it's horrible. You go first.
There's a lot of reasons why it's horrible. I can just go. The prices, GameStop is okay. Selling retro video games is very wishy-washy. There's a lot of fluctuations in prices. Nothing stays the same. So for GameStop to not undersell themselves, for GameStop to make money, they are going to have to shoot for the fucking moon on these prices. And it's I promise you, these prices are going to be insane.
Not just shoot for the moon. That means they're going to offer you a hell of a lot less than you'd offer even eBay or a mom and pop shop like Luna, because it sounds like they're not testing these in stores. So if they're buying a Nintendo for $10, say, or 15, they don't know if that Nintendo works. They're just going to buy it sight unseen, send it back, and it may or may not work.
Actually, so I think one of the articles says that they will test hardware. They will only spot check controllers in games. It was in the link with the interview. So I mean, they said they will. I mean, here's the thing. Now you're gonna have to train all your employees how to. I mean, it's not that hard, but you're gonna train them all how to hook up all these retro systems.
Okay.
And test them.
Okay.
Which is dumb.
All right. So even if that's going to be true, or they're going to test everything thoroughly, which I don't see.
No.
The cost incurred of shipping this stuff to a plant in multiple areas, probably throughout the country or a couple, hiring people to refurbish, which is going to have to be done for some of these, replace batteries on a Dreamcast. Maybe there's a controller port that doesn't work all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Repackaging it up, putting it online. That's a cost incurred that's going to be passed on to
what they can give you.
Yeah, exactly. So that doesn't mean you're not going to be getting, $40 or $50 NESs. Oh no, that's not going to happen by any stretch of the imagination.
No, and I can offer you 25 cash for an NES. I can offer you 35 credit. I will eat my words, but I'm going to guess that GameStop's not even going to approach that.
No. Absolutely not.
Here's another problem with it. And this one is one that I don't think a lot of people are thinking of. If they're only selling online, what is the reasoning for anyone to go to GameStop online to get their retro games when they can do eBay and they can still do trades? You're not changing anything. You're not changing the game. All you're doing is putting another online store up there for retro titles.
My pal Chris Kohler at Wired did a follow-up interview with a GameStop representative, more details about this, about what will GameStop buy back. They're going to take in any game, console, and first-party accessory for platforms. Any Nintendo brand controller, they'll take it. They aren't interested in third-party aftermarket stuff. Again, the knowledge base is already going to be limited to what they can have in the GameStop system. They're not going to be retraining employees about the nuances of knowing label variants and things like that nature, let alone repros and replacements. But we'll get into that later. They're going to do just a power-up test on the hardware.
Okay, that's
power-up.
Sorry.
So I was correct. Power-up. Does Nintendo turn on? Yes.
Well, it's still testing something.
Sure, doesn't mean that Nintendo works.
No.
Doesn't mean that Genesis works or that Sega CD works. Visual inspection on the accessory software. Visual inspection. They're not going to have time to test at a GameStop.
Right.
50. Someone comes in with 50 games like at Luna, they're not going to have time to test 50 games at a GameStop.
Furthermore, then, like you were saying, then if they're only doing the power-up test, that means they're going to offer you even less because they have to assume they have to. A business like them, they have to assume it's broken.
They're going to assume probably 10% don't work, something like that.
Yeah.
This is the first thing I thought. I got broken consoles. I'm taking them to GameStop.
Yep.
Why not? You're going to take them? Okay. Give me $10 for my broken Nintendo. It doesn't matter. It's worthless to me now. What happens after that? They're going to reach the location. It looks like Grapevine. Thorough evaluations, like I said, testing, repair if necessary. These are all costs that can be passed on to the consumer, by the way. Make sure that it functions. Check the batteries, blah, 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 blah. This is disheartening to me. If a battery needs replacing, they'll do it before it's offered for sale. If something is beyond repair, quote unquote, it'll get junked.
Yes.
Which is a shame because you can always use parts of stuff.
Well, and not all systems provide usable parts, but there are definitely ones that do. Like any NES that gets junked is going to upset me because I can use the shells, I can use the trays, I can use all sorts of stuff from those.
Asking since Chris Kohler is a video game collector like myself, he asked, "What about the condition? How does that come into play?" There's going to be a single SKU in the system for every game. Meaning, condition will not matter.
Yep.
Meaning, boxes or manuals, meaning having the disc case for a PlayStation game will not matter. So it'll be do you have the game to play in the system? That's all that's going to matter in the system. So, again, that will mean that when you buy it online in the system, it will be a crapshoot of what you get. Some people will win. Some people will buy an NES game and get it complete for the same price they have it loose. But you might buy a PlayStation game, and just get the disc and not the case. Yeah. It's going to be a total crapshoot, and that's the only way they can manage this.
And right, and they, he really waffled on that question. I think it caught him off guard because he's like, well, if it gets to the point where we have like an equal amount boxed and an equal amount loose, then we'll create a separate SKU. But it's like, when are you ever going to have an equal amount boxed or an equal amount loose of a game? You don't understand your own market that you're trying to sell to.
The representative said if it's 98% just cartridge or just disc, we may not need to change anything in the system. But if it's like a Genesis game, you know how many Genesis games don't have the case and which do. It's like 50-50.
And I was going to say, Genesis is like right down the line.
It's ridiculous why people didn't keep the Genesis case.
And
anyway.
it is getting to the point where Genesis games in a case are worth more than those ones.
They're worth like almost double in some cases, if not more.
Now, 8 years ago that wasn't true, but now.
It's possible that, in quotes, on occasion, somebody will get happy, surprised when they open up the box and find a complete game for the price of a loose one. So they might have to do 2 listings, they said, eventually, but they're going to, like I said, this is a pilot test, 250 stores, they're going to see how it goes. He asked Chris Kohler, how do you stop fakes? It's pretty easy to buy a fake label, Chris says, and pass off your worthless crap as a rare Nintendo game, especially if the GameStop employees are only doing a visual inspection.
See, I think this is where a lot of things that we've talked about prior are going to really bite them in the ass, and they're not going to deal with it. You can pretend like you're teaching your employees visual inspection, but half the people that work at GameStop don't even know modern fucking video games. The people who can spot fakes are people like you, and me, and Chris Kohler.
Hey, assholes, I think that no one gets hurt when a repro Little Samson gets made.
Get ready for a lot of ass hurt.
Get ready about, you're going to think, we're going to be screwing GameStop. They're going to give us money for our Little Samson. Think about the poor fools who are going to order it from GameStop and get sent a fake fucking game, potentially.
And then if that sort of thing takes off, then the whole market gets polluted with fakes. And good. Of course, I'm getting rid of most of my NES.
And of course, people that are in favor of repros are just going to blame GameStop for not knowing it's fake versus the people that are making the fakes. But whatever, go fuck yourself.
So yeah,
so that's going to be iffy. They're probably not going to train them on variants. I don't think they're probably going to have different SKUs for the two different versions of Metroid. They probably won't, and what if the price start bouncing for one versus the other?
Well, this is what...
greatest hits versus regular versions.
So this is bringing it back to kind of what the first thing out of my mouth when I found out. GameStop is like a very large... is like a person trying to get through a very small door. That's what retro game sales is going to be like for them. They can't maneuver. An independent store... for lack of a better term, has agility. You have to be able to bend and adapt very, very quickly when you're selling retro games. If you want to make any money, if you want to keep your customers happy, and you want to stay in business, you have to adapt on a day-by-day basis.
Price fluctuations could happen by the week.
We change prices on games almost weekly for certain games. So I just don't think they've got it. Because, like I said, the end result of all this is incredibly high prices on all the games.
It's incredibly high prices, and they always have to hedge their bets by offering way less in order to make sure they make money. This is a huge corporation. They have tons of employees. They're paying the people at the refurbished center, paying for posters to mail these systems across the country, potentially. And so I don't see any benefit. The only benefit I see to this, if you're that person that ends up you order a game and you get the complete version of that NES game that's worth a hell of a lot more, versus that's the only person that wins, but that's going to be the minority is going to win. Everyone else is going to lose.
So I do want to point out that they did say that the return policy is still in effect. So if you get something that you're not happy with, you can send it back.
Are you going to pay for the shipping yourself?
Right.
Are they going to challenge you if it's an expensive game?
It's still such a pain in the ass that it's going to... If a person has to do that once, they are probably never going to do that again. They're just going to go to eBay, go, that's in the condition I want it, I'm buying it.
No, plus, like I said, you buy a game from GameStop, you assume it's going to be real. You don't know that you might be getting a fake game or a repro label.
Yeah.
Or throwing this out there, what if they get what if they make a SKU in the future for complete in-box games, and all of a sudden you have a bunch of fake manuals and boxes? Yeah. What if they make a SKU for years online for a sealed version, and now you have fake seals getting resold?
The problem is they're entering
it's Pandora's box.
They're entering a large collector's market, and I don't think I don't think that's even crossed the higher ups' mind. No. They're not entering a video game market. They're entering a collector's market, and with a collector's market brings a whole lot more bullshit that in the end they're going to find they can't deal with.
I don't see this going
past pilot. I don't.
No, I don't. It's just unfortunately, it's just gonna deplete those two areas, Birmingham and New York City, of retro games, because people, you say that, people always say, well, people are smart, they know what they have. Not necessarily. If you see a sign saying, you walk past, how many GameStops are there versus mom and pop video game stores? 10-1, 15-1, 20-1. If you see a sign, say you're grandma or something, my grandkid had a Nintendo. You see a sign that, we'll give you money for your old Nintendo. I have that back in the closet. It'll be convenient for you to get out, drive, give them the 100 games your grandson had or son had, and you're getting pittance for it.
Yeah.
Versus you making money on it, and versus the games not being shipped off to some detention center somewhere to come back on the market maybe eventually.
I wish I had looked, but it's because the pilot program has supposedly started. There's got to be someone out there who's mentioned what they're offering for certain prices. Games for like Mario 3.
I'm gonna throw this out there. What if when this pilot ends, they have a ton of inventory? What happens to that inventory? Who are they going to sell that inventory to?
Well, same thing with the PS2s. They have never documented they've never said what they're going to do with all those PS2s. So then GameStop just sits on a bunch of shit, and then what happens? Do they try to sell it off
eBay themselves?
Yeah.
Sell to a reseller, a giant reseller like Lukey Games, to buy it all, then mark up the price even more?
Or fucking absolute worst case scenario, they decide it's not worth it for them and they junk it.
Yeah, I hope they wouldn't do that, but I don't see any positiveness at all. Absolutely none.
No. And like in as the owner and I were discussing, just on a base level, the fact that it's online only does nothing to differentiate it.
No.
And does nothing to entice people to go to the GameStop website to get it.
All it does is, like I said, Funkoland, late 90s, early 2000s, when they're still selling games there, it's clicking to see, hey, maybe it'll be a stadium that's become available, and I can buy it. If it's real and if it's there, that's all it's coming down to. What an absolute mess.
You can use your store credit towards it. So in terms of awful things, publishers are fighting to keep dead games dead. Now, we'll start with like the current news. What this means is games with like servers, games that are attached to servers that have had servers shut down. The Electronic Frontier Foundation is a nonprofit group, and they're trying to fight for people to be able to go in there and create their own servers, create their own code so that these games are playable again.
Games like Battlefield 1942, Star Wars Battlefront, the original, SOCOM 4.
The
Mario Kart Wii.
Yeah. The argument being, rightfully so, that you bought these games and you should have the right to play them. So allow, if you've abandoned them and you're not making money off it anymore, then why are you being a dick? Let these people let these people do what they want to do. It reminds me a lot of old abandonware sites, which is why this article interested me. There used to be sites all over that were full of abandonware, which were basically games that were no longer supported by companies or were no longer supported by the creators. Basically, no one could possibly be making money off these games
or
anymore.
they didn't care and even gave permission
Right.
for people to download them.
But there were a lot of people who weren't that cool and said, no, you can't have the game up there, even though there was no way for them to make money off of it, even though the abandonware sites, like the one I always remember is Home of the Underdogs.
Is that still around?
I think so, but they're largely a store now.
Okay.
They don't want you to have it, which is, honestly, it's just greedy and selfish, and it's them saying, maybe in 20 years we're going to renew this IP, and we'll need to...
Well, this is different, though, because this isn't... this is just people want the ability to play these on servers. So it's not like they're even having people download these games for free. It's people that people that already own the games just still want to be able to play them.
No, I know.
And so this group was looking for, the Electronic Frontier Foundation was looking for an exemption from the ESA, saying, hey, we're not looking to sell these games ourselves. We just want to be able to have servers and run these games because we love these games, we own these games. And the ESA came back and basically said, screw you.
Yeah, and it is different than what I was saying, but I brought it up because it's still the same thing. It's people being greedy because they think they might, at some point in the future, make money off of it again, even though they're not making money off of any of it now.
Well, the ESA said that it would argue that modifying game code as hacking would encourage piracy, which is ridiculous.
That is like saying, because I read this earlier, that is like saying... watching a violent movie is going to make you go out and commit a violent act. That's like saying smoking marijuana is a fucking gateway drug. I've modified many systems specifically to play imports, and I've never put a burn in them.
Yeah, I don't see how enabling people to still play Mario Kart Wii, which is a game that's only how old? 6 years old.
Yeah.
How is that a bad thing? How is that? I don't understand that.
No, it's not a bad thing. It's just stupid fucking laws.
So it's a shame. Now, it'd be interesting to see if individual companies would come out and say, not that I think EA will say, yeah, Battlefield 1942 have at it,
right?
Or Activision, who the hell owns it. But it'd be interesting to see that some companies probably wouldn't care. So some companies would absolutely not care and say, you know what? You want to modify the game's code to run your own server, go for it. We don't give a shit.
As far as I know, there's still Phantasy Star Online fan servers, and Sega's never given a fuck.
So there you go. I understand that these companies, though, copyright, one of the tenets of copyright law is to enforce your copyright.
Right.
That's always what people forget, is that
I forget that.
It's not just the sort of, well, we're being assholes for the sake of being assholes for a company. Having a copyright means you have to enforce it. If you don't enforce it legally, then they can go to court eventually and say, well, you didn't care about it, you didn't enforce it, so it's okay. So you have to enforce it to some extent.
I guess that's what I was trying to say poorly before, is that even though they might not be making money, they will protect the property just in case they decided to bring it back later.
They just have to. They have to. The lawyers would go nuts if they didn't protect it. Because then if they don't protect that one, people would then also maybe think that they're not protecting their other properties. That's the thing. It's just a shame, though, that this is going to happen with games where they might at least the multiplayer parts will disappear forever. Now, in terms of games entirely disappearing,
there's games like Destiny.
Yeah.
Well, no. Before we, so I was just going to say, it's not. Some of those games are legitimately tied to their servers.
Sure.
As soon as Activision drops the servers for Destiny, that game doesn't exist. You literally can't. You can't do anything.
It's vapor.
Yeah, it's gone.
But in terms of a newer sort of, I guess, console, you can call it, or medium mobile games. No one really talks about mobile games.
Or computer free-to-play games.
You download these games. They're free to play. They're on a server somewhere.
Right.
They have your information. They have your login, your account. What happens when those games start disappearing? And now it's starting to happen with better... Now, these aren't small games. These are companies put out...
Yeah, no, these are like Battlefield Heroes, which is a PC game. I think most of these are actually PC, not mobile. But, so, they're shutting them down, and
Need for Speed World, FIFA World, leaked on in July.
Initially, you think, not a big deal. It was free. They're shutting it down. No harm, no foul. Except for all these free-to-play games, as we all know, have currencies inherent to them. And people have bought lots of currency. So it's not free. People have paid for these games to some degree. And when they've stated that there will be no refund for funds that aren't used, and what's the point of even spending the funds on a game? You know that's going to die in a month.
I wasn't even going to address that. I was thinking that video game preservation. What happens to these games? Do they just go off into a void and people don't see them again?
They basically do.
I mean, obviously some programmers are going to keep these, but in terms of public, not just awareness, but for a historic sense, these games are wiped.
Yeah.
It's not like you might get on people saying, "Oh, collectors, you're hoarding games, blah blah blah." But video game preservation, whether you like it or not, is part of game collecting. You're at least preserving that game.
Yeah,
it's there. The games are in here.
Right.
Now you don't have the games anymore. You're playing them. They're gone. They're in the cloud somewhere.
Right.
So what happens 20 years from now? 25 years old. Ian and Pat want to talk about the good old days of the first free-to-play games of the mid 2000s. I
don't think we would, but anyway.
I'm just saying they're gone.
Yeah.
They're absolutely gone. It's like trying to find some weird DOS game that was, released in a Minnesota town in 1984. It's gone.
Yeah. And it's sad. I mean, I'm not really shedding tears over free-to-play games. I've never found one that's been fun, but the fact of the matter is it should be documented. And I do feel bad about the people who have, dumped time, money into this. All I will say is the fact that they're shuttering like 3 of these, just EA alone, I'm hoping that this free-to-play thing is just coming to an end. You just saw 3 games with huge licenses. Need for Speed, Battlefield, but even bigger than all of those, FIFA World. Now, it's a sports game which we don't normally talk about, but if one of those should have done fantastically, it should have been FIFA World because of world appeal, because of the giant amount of soccer fans on the planet. That should have done fine. If that's not doing okay, I think that's saying that free-to-play games are in a different state than they were 2 years ago, where they were generating shitloads of money for people.
Sure. I mean, I guess even either they don't want to support it anymore, or maybe even for the free versions, the ad revenue is not supporting the servers to run these. Whatever you want to say, it's just a shame that maybe this will lead to less development of them. Maybe they realize.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, maybe they'll realize maybe we're making money in the first 3, 4, 5 months. After that, it's not worth their time to even put manpower into making these games.
Maybe just fucking release a game and give me a price tag,
or that.
That would be fine by me.
But still, then they reside in a server somewhere, and the servers cost money to run.
Well, yeah, I mean, in
stop putting these games on servers that have to like that. Stop it,
or stop tying them to servers.
Yes,
I understand the online, but allow my single player campaign to work.
Let me download it.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that at some point in the future, ingenious hackers find ways to crack these things so that they're playable again. I mean, it's probably obviously doable. You can remove the pay-to-play stuff, and maybe we will see them again. But it depends on what people can grab of the code now before EA just makes them go bye-bye.
Sure. It's always interesting every 2 years or so, 3 years, where we see retro games hitting like mainstream cable.
I fucking hate it.
Oh god,
I hate.
There was some asshole who went on Pawn Stars trying to sell Nintendo World Championship cards.
I heard about that.
It was absolutely fucking terrible.
It was, yeah.
Holy shit.
It was bad.
But what happened recently was Storage Wars, which is a show me and Frank used to love. It's been on for already about 5 years. I think 6 years. What's interesting about Storage Wars is I've met half of the cast. David Hester, who sued the show, was on the show originally, sued the show, was off the show, back on the show. He sells regularly at one of the flea markets I go to.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk about that later. However, there's another guy named Renee, who's a piece of trash that used to sell at my flea market, who's on the show as a semi-regular. And then the main centerpieces of what I'm about to say used to sell at the swap meet here. So what is Storage Wars? Storage Wars is a show which is, I'll get into whether or not it's real or fake, but it's mostly fake. Storage Wars is based upon what people have done for years is delinquent storage units exist everywhere. Southern California and California, for some reason, is a mecca for them.
Transient people. Transient town, yeah.
Transient cities all of Southern California, military cities. People get in and out. So if you don't pay your rent on your storage unit, the storage property people take it over. They do an auction. So for years and years and years, this was sort of a secret thing that most people didn't know about. Mm-hmm. You'd have people that would literally, they go to a storage unit. You'd have people bid for them, but there was understanding not to bid against the person next to you because, hey, we don't bid against each other. We can get a storage unit full of thousands of dollars of stuff for like $50. Mm-hmm. And that's how it was for years. And those people then take that stuff, put it online, pawn shop, have their own stores, or like other guys at my flea market used to do a lot, take it and sell it at the flea market, which has lessened and lessened. So what Storage Wars did was make it into a reality show. And they sort of blew the lid off of people finding out about this done. So what happened to it was more people got into it, not just the people that would show up for the tapings of the show, but in general they would show up. And I've talked to storage unit guys that have done this for years and years, and they fucking hate this show for exposing the business.
We've dealt with there have been a couple of storage unit guys that we've dealt with for years at Luna, and they can't stand the show.
Not just they can't stand it because it's gotten more people into it to bid up prices of units that they used to be able to get for $50. They're now paying $500 for. But Storage Wars does a nefarious practice that, according to the people I talk to, they do what's called salting the units. Now, salting is a term for going back to the Old West, where if you had a gold mine you wanted to sell,
right,
you would blast little specks of gold on the walls. You would salt it with gold. That's the expression. So you'd bring in the prospective buyer saying, oh, look how great this unit is. A sucker. Give you all their money for a worthless mine.
Right.
And so for this show, reportedly what they do, and I'll get into reasons why I think it's true, they put high-priced items in these units just for the show, so that people can go, oh, wow, this is interesting. Otherwise, you have no show if you bought a bunch of storage units every week and it's absolute garbage, or, oh, it's interesting, it's just machinery, but nothing cool.
Right.
So every episode of this show, they find something interesting in at least one of the units, bring it to a quote-unquote expert, and it's worth a lot more than what they got the storage unit for. From my dealings with people at the swap meet saying, the stories they have about finding rare art, finding gold, finding Rolex watches, that stuff has happened.
Sure.
But it doesn't happen every week.
No.
And so these stories that have come from, the storage unit people, they've used that in the show.
Okay.
But it's definitely not true. Because, again, if not saying it doesn't happen, but if you have a painting worth $50,000, you have gold and cash in
why
a
would
unit,
you put it in a storage
why
unit?
would you leave it there?
Right. No,
if you're that hard up for cash.
And that's exactly what I was going to say.
Not everyone dies.
Yeah. And you're gonna touch on this because this is where we're going, but video games are something that I can see being in a storage unit.
Sure.
Gold, fine art, sure, maybe once in a while, but probably by accident by someone who either died or didn't really know what they were doing.
And that'd be a story you hear about once a year happening. Yeah. Not every week. And so the buyers that quote unquote found a bunch of, this is a lot of Nintendo games. It was like a Nintendo system and about 50 or 60 games there. It was Daryl, known as the Gambler. Daryl I've had dealings with at the swap meet. He used to sell at the swap meet 4 or 5 years ago. When the show first started, A&E was filming there before it was a hit, before it was even there. They were filming there 5-6 years ago. Crews were there, and I even asked, and Frank was there, hey, well, you guys are filming something. Oh, yeah, we're doing this, documentary. And this was like the first episode that they were shooting there, showing what these guys do with the stuff they find. Show's morphed since then in 6 years. So it was Daryl. I bought stuff from Daryl before. His son's usually there. Frank would always kid about, hey, don't be so hard on your son. This is during the first season before the show blew up. Daryl is a little rough, which I'll get into, how he deals with people. So supposedly Daryl found 50 Nintendo games and a console, and he brought them to get checked out at a store. This is what was in the lot, if you haven't seen it. Now, I might be missing some, but these are the high-ticket items.
Right.
There was a Trolls in Crazyland, which is a PAL game. There was a Stadium Events PAL version, which they did not say it was PAL on the show, which is the difference between a game worth thousands of dollars or $400 or $300.
And the guys behind the counter didn't acknowledge it. Like, you should know that.
Yes, they would have known if they were running a store. A Zombie Nation, a Snow Brothers, a Power Blade 2, and a Bonk's Adventure. Those were the marquee games.
He had only seen Zombie Nation once in 10 years. I've seen it probably 4. I mean,
I found it at the swap meet twice.
I know it's rare. I know it's worth money, but
Excuse me. I found it at the swap meet. I knew someone else that found it at the swap meet.
stop pumping up your fucking penis. I mean, it's not that hard.
So let's just say that the Trolls in Crazyland, Stadium Events PAL, Zombie Nation, Store Brothers, Power Play 2, Bonk's Adventure. Let's just say that's worth at this point, I don't know, $800, $900. You want to say that?
No, let's just be crazy. Let's just call it the grand because
The grand.
Let's just call it the grand.
NES and 50 common to uncommon games, even with the Contra. We'll say 300. Is that fair?
3 to 4. Let's shoot for the moon. Let's say 500.
1,500 for 50 games. The games we just said were the marquee games in an NES that works.
Yeah.
We'll say 1,500. That's probably overestimating.
Oh, that's
it.
definitely.
They came in with these games, and the people behind the counter said that those games were worth $3,000. They were lying through their fucking teeth about the value.
Yep. And
Absolutely. And so, obviously, they're pumping up. If this, first of all, if that was a statement NTSC, it would have been worth a few thousand on its own at this point, if not 4 or 5 or 6. However, people are spending on that stupid fucking game.
This is the crux of the problem. If you realize that the stadium events is PAL, suddenly everything they said is bullshit.
Yes.
If it was a real stadium event, then they would have been probably close or even under, but it's not.
Yeah. So they offered, the people offered, which happens in the show from time to time, where they said, "Oh, we're going to offer you money for it." Then it becomes almost like Pawn Stars. They offered $1,200 for the lot, which again, I don't know what money they're making on that, unless they just wanted showpieces, or unless they thought they were tricking them and it was a real Stadium Events, but they didn't realize it wasn't a U.S. version of Stadium Events. The whole thing doesn't make any fucking sense. None of it makes sense.
No. Well, here's what doesn't make so as they get the assessment and they start to like pack the stuff up, and the guys are like, "Well, we can't let you walk out of here with that collection. We want it." And the guy was like, what did he offer? Like 50. They were like, anyways, the storage war guys were like 4,000, and it's like, no, that's not how this not. Fuck.
That's not how negotiation works.
That's not how it works. You just told them that you want to charge them more than what they quoted, which is 3,000 at retail, which is wrong.
But this is how Daryl is. I've encountered him where if you show interest or he thinks you know more than him, he thinks the stuff is worth more and he'll bump the price up. I cannot remember what it was I wanted to buy from him. It wasn't even a video game. It might have been software or something weird. And I made him an offer on it, and I guess he didn't like how the negotiation was going, and so he raised the price on me. But then he did this as well, which is what he did in the show. He did this to me, and I remember this from like 5-6 years ago, last time one of us I saw him.
Flipping?
So they said, "We'll flip you for it. I'm a gambler. Brr, that's my name. We'll flip you for it. $5,000 or $5." And in my head, I'm like, okay, even if the guys even said we can't make money at $5,000. Hell, they couldn't make money at $1,200 barely.
They couldn't make money at 3.
So it didn't make any sense, and it's just an asshole thing to do. The show, I have balls and you don't. Plus, I'm gonna just, of course, they give these people money to bid on these auctions. So for him, it doesn't matter the $5,000 either way. It's just for show.
Right.
You know,
that's why he can do it.
That's why he can do it.
Because he sure as fuck wouldn't do it if actual money of his was riding on the line.
No, if he knew the games were even worth $3,000, he was going to risk $3,000. If I was just doing it just for show. So, but before anyone gets on me for the show I was on, if I was, first of all, the values discussed with my games were real values. Sure. First of all, the offers were real offers. The counters were real. So this is entirely different. So why it's a shame? Because this is what happened when the Yahoo story came out in 2010 about mainstream news. People think they have gold, and when you overinflate shit that's totally fake like this isn't like a Nintendo World Championships that no one has. This is people thinking all my random games are worth $1,200 or $3,000. My stack of 40 Nintendo games.
And that's what I was going to end on, and you stole my thunder. But that's exactly what it is. This is another partial sealed stadium events found in Grandma's closet. Yeah. This is going to cause me to have to deal with people who think that they have $100 copies of Zelda for the next 6 months. And it's going to happen. And it's going to happen because another store somehow, and they've been in business for 10 years, have no fucking clue what they're talking about in terms of pricing. They can't identify a cartridge. Maybe they were overexcited. I mean, maybe they were overexcited.
You have to know what a PAL game is.
You have to.
If you have to know that Trolls in Crazy Land is not a U.S. game.
Yeah. And it's just, it's gonna fuck stuff up if people watch this, because that's what happens every time this sort of thing happens with the games. The prices for the games they blow it all out of the water. Like, they make it seem like the biggest find, and then every mom and pop store in the country has to deal with this bullshit for 6 months.
Sure. Ian, were people doing this after my Pawn Stars appearance?
I don't know, Pat. Probably. No, probably not.
Thank you. That's all I was going to say. Plus, the one thing about salting the units, the producers actually came out and admitted it because of the lawsuit, going back to the lawsuit. David Hester sued because David Hester, who was one of the original people on the show, who sells at Swap Meet sometimes, didn't like the fact, he didn't like the fact that they were paying other people on the show in order to bid up the stuff. He didn't like that they were salting the units. He thought it was bad for business. He was trying to actually be ethical while bidding on the show. The way they got around it, because David Hester's defense or litigation was centered on the fact, like the quiz show, saying this is supposed to be like trivia. This is supposed to be knowledge contest of knowing what's in the unit and getting it. When you start fudging it, this show is false.
Right.
So A&E basically said, okay, it is. What are you going to do about it? Basically saying, no, it's not like a trivia or game show. It's just like we're just showing what can happen in these storage units.
So do they? I mean, I've never actually watched an episode of the show. Do they actually say now that this is a fictional representation of?
They've never said that.
But don't they have to then? I mean, legally?
No. Why would they have to?
I don't know. I guess. I don't understand.
But basically, I guess David Hester, he's back on the show, so I guess everything's fine now. But that's the situation with the game. So yeah, try going to storage auctions. I know people that done it, and now they said it's a fiasco versus what it used to be. It's absolutely dreadful.
Oh, it's probably like going to a pinball auction these days, where things used to be reasonable, and now they're all blown through the roof.
Bunch of teasers came out, but we're gonna talk about this one first. You may not realize, Ian, but there's a new Star Wars movie coming out in December.
Yeah.
You forgot about it last time. It's Episode 7, The Force Awakens, which is interesting because in the promotion so far, they're kind of not really putting the Episode 7 on and just having The Force Awakens for the most part, which is interesting. Interesting strategy. So this is going to have, the original cast is going to be back in there, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, even Peter Mayhew as Chewbacca's coming back, So the first teaser was like, okay, this is interesting, what's going on. The second teaser blowed people fucking away. Like they couldn't help themselves. You know what? I was one of them. I was sold seeing this second teaser. Totally sold.
Here's me. I don't have a lot of investment in Star Wars, but I did watch the teaser. And I really don't. But I watched the teaser, and I wished that I could get as excited as everyone else was, because it did look good. It does. I mean, in my mind, even though I'm not, like I said, invested, that looked like what a Star Wars movie was supposed to look like.
There you have it.
It looked like what a Star Wars movie was supposed to look like, and I bet it was comforting to a lot of fans, especially like that last line where
spoilers.
Harrison. It's a fucking.
I'm kidding.
Okay. Fucking teaser. When Harrison Ford says, "Chewie, we're home."
Yes.
I mean, that means so many different things. That's not just
we're in the movie.
Yeah, that's don't worry, guys. We've got this.
Yes.
That's at least that's what they're trying to imply.
Don't worry, guys. We're not going to fuck up like Lucas did.
Right.
He's got his billions. He's far away. Yeah. Uncle Mickey's going to take care of you.
Yeah.
And that's, you know what? I think subconsciously that's what people thought too. This is what I'm going to say about the trailer, is that you have Mark Hamill voicing about, I'm a Jedi, my sister's a Jedi. And it was interesting because people didn't realize, or they're still trying to figure out if it was just from Return of the Jedi or if he actually redid the lines. And people are debating that. Whether or not he redid the lines, they just picked them out because it did sound a little bit different. Some parts. But just seeing the hand of Luke, just like, oh shit, this is Star Wars. Okay. And then, you see the Millennium Falcon, you saw it in the first teaser. But just the tone of the action and seeing real sets, seeing them seeing the new characters run in a desert with explosions.
X-Wings piloting through tunnels.
Stuff like that.
Fighting ties. I mean, that's... Right,
Fighting ties? It was, it was a feeling of not reckless abandon, but of almost like a celebration, this teaser. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because the first teaser, of course, people will say, oh, you went apeshit over the first Phantom Menace teaser in 99. Yeah, most people, or excuse me, that was 98 it came out. Yeah, most people did. But when you look back upon the reaction, you know what? Most of the reaction was to that first Star Wars teaser, seeing a double lightsaber with Darth Maul. Well, that was the big part of that teaser.
Well, I think
that people enjoyed.
I think Star Wars fans have also learned a lesson. Back then, I think Star Wars fans were probably more open to seeing something different.
Anything.
They just wanted anything, and they were open to seeing something different. They saw some cool things like snippets of the pod race and the double lightsaber and Darth Maul, and they were like, okay, we're going to do this.
Yes.
I think Star Wars fans are a lot smarter than that now.
Oh, of course. Oh, of course.
Now the trailer is out there showing them staples of the universe they love. Stormtroopers, X-Wings. That's
not just that, the look and feel is of the original trilogy.
Sure.
Not just because it's an extension of that, it's whatever it's supposed to be 25 years later or 30 years later, 35 years. First of all, it's shot on film.
Yes.
Not digital anymore. Fuck that. J.J. Abrams saying we're going for film, we're going for a grittier look. Film, we're going to do it. Obviously, models being used again. Obviously, lots of sets.
See, that
not just green screen. So they're basically saying, Uncle George, go back to the basement. We're gonna do it the way we think we do it.
When they said they were doing models, and I mean, and I think you're seeing some in that trailer, it made me so happy because you can look back on the original trilogy and it still looks good to this day.
The asteroid chase looks amazing still. The Return of the Jedi final space battle is absolutely outstanding.
Yep.
Absolutely. And obviously we're not saying you need a guy to take a model and move it, but make the model and then scan it at least.
Yeah.
And that'll be a hell of a lot better than having a guy, program it in and draw it in. There's people use, Peter Jackson used models and miniatures and whatever they call the bigatures, whatever they what do they call them?
I don't know.
The full size miniature, for the statues, and it's real, it's there, it's tactile. Besides the green screen, besides a guy like J.J. Abrams who's not just sitting 30 feet behind a green screen looking at his monitor yelling action and not interacting with his actors.
Right.
He's an actual director. People forget that George Lucas first of all, he's only directed I think 4 films overall, but in between Phantom Menace and Star Wars, he directed nothing.
Yeah.
For 20 plus years. He came back rusty. He came back not knowing not knowing how to direct actors anymore. Mm-hmm. Besides that, if he knew how to direct them to begin with. Who knows?
That's a lot of people will argue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that Star Wars came out of the edit. The first edit was disastrous, supposedly. Then they recut the entire film. Then there was something there.
Wow.
And thank God for John Williams knowing how to
write
an excellent score. Yes.
Well, the score is a big part of that movie.
Oh yeah, there's complete scenes of Star Wars that are available, like when he's hanging out with his friends on Tatooine, Luke, that are absolutely terrible. Thank God they cut this out. Yeah. Anyway, so the other thing about this trailer is that the characters are having fun.
Yes.
When you have the X-Wing pilot going, woo, and feeling it, you're like, that didn't happen in the entire prequel trilogy. A moment like that.
There's a lighthearted mood to the whole thing, and I'm sure the movie is going to have dark moments and all that stuff.
Of course.
But it's not going to be this grim, dark Zack Snyder bullshit, and we'll get to that.
Well, it's not going to be some over the top, diplomatic policy framework of the prequel trilogy about a trade federation and a dispute over taxes.
Yeah.
That was the framework for the entire prequel trilogy. People forget the first lines of the scroll were about a trade dispute.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, I think in the prequel they sort of lost the plot. At least George did. That people watch Star Wars for the characters embroiled in this larger conflict. They don't give a shit about the larger conflict on its own.
Right.
It's the characters and it goes for all movies. They love the characters inside this larger universe. And that was sort of flipped for the prequel to some degree, where they try to frame the movies as this trade dispute and all the politics with the characters inside that story. Almost like a Tom Clancy, freaking story. Totally wrong. Not just that. People forget, my favorite character is Han Solo. And yes, I got a teeny bit misty-eyed seeing Harrison Ford and Chewbacca there. I don't care that they're 70 years old. I don't care that Harrison Ford... It doesn't make sense for Han Solo not to have settled down by then. I don't care.
Even I thought it was cute. I mean,
it was
very
cute.
much so. And like I said...
Wearing the same outfit. It's like your grandma wearing what she wore when she was 20. It doesn't matter.
I mean this legitimately... I'm not trying to be cynical. I really wish I could have experienced that the way a Star Wars fan experienced it, and I'm happy for Star Wars fans because that looks like it's going to be something that's going to be great for them.
Yeah.
And I'll probably see the movie. I know I will.
And this isn't a bash on the prequel, which is totally easy, but Han Solo was my favorite character. There was not one Han Solo type character in the prequel trilogy. No down-to-earth, roguish, devil-may-care guy doing what he wants, someone you can actually relate to. Because after all, I think Jedi Knights are boring. Jedi Knights are sexless, humorless, chaste monk knights. Yeah. That's what Jedis are.
Yeah, they're not.
They are Buddhist monks with laser swords. That's not interesting to me. I'm sorry. It's not. And it was always creepy that the prequel trilogy sort of exposed them as being a little bit arrogant and sort of, why the hell is the Republic listening to these guys in the first place?
Yeah, you're supposed to root for them.
It's almost like a theocracy. Yeah. It's almost like they're religious. It's a religious order, basically, and they're helping run the Republic. It's the whole thing, I think, on paper sounded better than how it actually played out.
Right, because the Jedi of the original trilogy were much different attitude-wise than in the prequel.
Well, there's only a few of them, but
right,
yeah.
But still, you got this sense that they were almost Zen or Taoist type masters, who were using the Force to find peace and to, ward off evil. Yeah. And in the prequel, no.
Yeah, even Yoda became sort of a dick in the prequels. He was this awesome, carefree character. Yes, he had his moments where he was serious, but even in the prequel trilogy, all of a sudden Yoda's like an idiot. Mm-hmm. He's an idiot. He can't sense anything happening. He can't sense that Anakin next to him is going to be the most evil guy. The whole it's just wacky. So yeah, people forget about that there was no Han Solo type character to sort of ground that trilogy, and what you're left with is seeing Anakin, who that's a whole other story.
Yep.
So I'm excited about Episode 7, and I'm excited about Rogue One and Episode 8 and everything going forward, because like we said before, Disney cannot afford to have another prequel trilogy. They'll lose billions of dollars. They have to, not just the video games, these movies have to pump these out one, I guess, every year. They're going to be doing it. They're going to make their money back. And so far, knock on wood, cross your fingers, hit Ian in the head, it's going to turn out hopefully well. Real quick, you haven't seen it yet. You didn't do your homework.
I haven't had time.
Me and Frank watched about the first 4 episodes of Daredevil on Netflix, and trying to go spoiler free because Ian's here. It hit the expectations I had, and went a little bit further than others in terms of talk about slow burn. When you have 13 episodes, this isn't a 2-hour movie. You can really give it time to establish your characters, flesh it out.
I mean, that's what I've heard. I mean, I haven't heard anything but good things about it since.
Very well casted. Well cast. I'm going to bring it up right now because I don't know. Besides Charlie Cox, the lead, very good in the lead.
I can only imagine D'Onofrio's got to be fantastic as Kingpin.
Yeah, not exactly. He's the Kingpin. I guess the Kingpin's never a character that. Obviously, there's a few big arcs with him, but I think they had more freedom to do a little bit more what they wanted him. But he's the Kingpin.
Yeah,
I mean he's diabolical.
Sure,
but they gave him, I guess, more a human side as well. Like which you have to if it's a 13 episode arc.
Yeah, it can't be a one-sided villain.
And in spoilers, he doesn't even show up until like the end of like the 3rd episode. So it's like
I kind of figured that he might not.
So they're giving it time to go. The actor who plays Foggy Nelson, outstanding. Very funny. The chemistry between him and Charlie Cox. I think is it Eldon Henson? I believe it's someone will correct me. Very good. The humor's there. The action. It's hard to be quote unquote realistic when you're doing a superhero movie, but then again, this isn't really a superhero. This is just a gymnast / martial artist.
It's a vigilante.
It's as good as you're going to get in this sort of genre in terms of realism. These are not clean. You duck one punch, I punch you. This is brawling. This is you're going to get fucked up. If you decide to do this in real life, you're not coming back, free. You're going to get bruised. You're going to get battered. You see that from the first episode on. You get hurt.
Right.
Doesn't mean you can't beat up people, but it's not going to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's interesting about this series is that when Daredevil beats up a guy, he doesn't necessarily stay down. He gets up again, which is what would happen in real life, and again. And so it's like, holy shit, this is like watching a brawl on the streets. It's not as clean as, I do one kick and you're
yeah.
down. This is getting up inside, protecting yourself, hammering away, getting punches blocked, some grappling on the ground. It can get it's gritty. It's gritty. I hate using that word, but it's gritty. It's also very violent and gruesome. That exceeded my expectations. We're talking decapitations. We're talking people getting stuck through the head with spikes. We're talking going inside people's bodies. Like, this is like, I don't think this is borderline. Like, this would not even be rated R. This is like hard R.
Right.
The gore. Like, this is gory. This is gory stuff. So it's interesting that, first of all, it's interesting that Marvel went in this direction and said, screw the kiddies. This is not a kid show at all.
Right.
You know that from the first half hour. But it's interesting that they're letting themselves do this with a series like this, which gives you great hopes for them doing, obviously, Luke Cage. I'm so looking forward to what they're going to do with Iron Fist.
Oh, that's all I want. Iron Fist is one of my favorites, and the most recent run I did not care for, but Iron Fist in general is one of my favorite characters.
But they could do a Punisher series with the level of violence that they could obviously have showed in Daredevil. It's well suited for Punisher. They could do that. That would be well suited.
Sure.
And it's also great because there's multiple, obviously 13 episodes. Everything's weaving in and out. There's multiple. You have
hour-long episodes.
They're about 50 minutes.
50.
So you have the Russian mob. You have the Triad Chinese mafia. It's all over the place. Again, I'm only 4 or 5 episodes in, and hell, he's not even at his quote unquote quintessential red costume yet. Which is one of the things I liked about it, is that they're doing a slow build up. One of the things I will spoil is, like, even in the first episode, he's bare knuckling guys, and by the third episode, he's realizing, hey, I should be taping my fists.
Right.
You know, so it's like there's a progression going on there. He's not even using weapons yet. You know, like, he's still discovering these things.
It sounds a lot. I mean, it also sounds similar to me to I don't know if you ever read it, but Batman Year One.
Well, supposedly there's a Man Without Fear series that this is based on, which is sort of the Daredevil version of that.
Okay.
Him just starting out, because it is starting basically almost new from the first episode. So, Ian, check it out. Basically, people listening have already.
Vonnie and I mean, we have every intention of watching it. It's just, we'll probably start it maybe this Monday, get a couple episodes under our belts, and we'll probably have it done within a week. I'm not much of a marathon TV watcher, though.
No, I only do like 4 episodes in a row. You have Vincent D'Onofrio, you have Rosario Dawson. We share a birthday, so we're connected like this. And you know what? I don't think they officially announced a second season, but I think they're going to do one, because why not? You know what I mean?
The only reason I could see them not doing a second season is if they want to give more heroes a chance, or they want to intertwine the heroes with other heroes and kind of make a mini universe.
Well, they are trying to do the new Defenders with Daredevil, and then Iron Fist.
You're right.
And then Luke Cage. And then what was it? Jessica Jones is going to be the next series, I think, in the spring coming out, or no, later this fall, I believe. Maybe next year. Anyway, so check it out. Daredevil. I like it. Marvel right now obviously is firing on all cylinders. And hell, I'm not even. I mean, I'm gonna see it. It's gonna be good. I'm not even looking forward to Age of Ultron in a couple weeks. I'm not even like 10 days away. It's not even on my radar.
We're going, but yeah.
What is on your radar, Ian?
You know what? I'm gonna take a minute. I'm just gonna talk about it real quick. It's more on my radar than it was, and I don't think I'm gonna watch it. And this will probably not end up as a segment, but I did watch the Fantastic Four trailer, and you know what? I think precisely because I don't care for the Fantastic Four, precisely because I don't really know a lot about them, I'm actually a little bit more interested in this than I was. And Doom, this is the big thing. Doom, did you see Doom? He didn't look like a computer hacker to me, or a blog writer. Like, it almost looked like they looked at the backlash and were like, oh, yeah, that's really fucking dumb.
Let's change it. Did they change it?
Let's change it and put Doom in there as Doom.
Maybe he's still a hacker, but now he uses a suit as well. I mean, I think he always had the suit, but I think the backstory is what.
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to dwell on this trailer for too long, but I got a better. I for whatever reason, I felt like I liked the characters better. Maybe it's because I just feel a little bit better, and I'm going to be a little bit more generous to something. But I'm not going to go see it in theaters, but I'll definitely. I think at this point, yes, I will probably watch it.
Well, the tone is still all horribly wrong. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
It is, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I decided to stop looking at it as a Fantastic Four film, and I will probably check it out. One that is totally not on my radar.
What movie's not on your radar, Ian?
Fucking Batman Batman v Superman.
V
Superman.
Dawn of Justice.
Dawn of Justice. The new trailer. Guys.
Teaser.
Oh.
It's dark.
It sucks. It sucks. It's fucking awful. And I can't get that much more worked up than that because I've been saying that it fucking sucks since day one. Since literally the first day we did a podcast, I've been against this movie.
First podcast. Yes,
and it does look like more grimdark bullshit. Why can't a Superman movie ever look like it's going to have something positive in it? Not from Snyder.
We talked about Daredevil being gritty. That takes place in Hell's Kitchen, and that's what the character is.
And Daredevil's supposed to be gritty.
Yeah.
And Batman's allowed to be gritty, but Superman's in it. And really, this is not a movie that should be fucking just like it looks so stereotypically Zack Snyder.
Well, the problem is that Man of Steel was dark and gritty, and that was the problem.
Yes, and because they started on that bullshit fucking movie that was dark and gritty, they have nowhere to go.
You can't go lighter.
Every shot of Superman in that movie looked like a beaten, whipped emo boy who had, I mean, it was dark. The fucking statue, with the words "false god" fucking spray painted on it. I nearly barfed. I'm like, what are you trying to make? Positive things. The Batman suit looks cool, and I liked the voice modulation for Ben Affleck.
I thought the modulation only made sense because he was in that sort of dark, it was like the Dark Knight Returns. It was the Dark Knight Returns suit. If you read the Dark Knight Returns at the end, that's the suit.
Yes. And I liked that suit. I liked the way Ben Affleck looked.
But it's everything so somber.
Yes.
And end of the fucking world. Can we have Superman save a cat out of a tree or something? Can we just? Does everything have to be gray toned? And I'm just gonna say it. I know Affleck, he's redeemed himself with the new movies the past few years. The Town. He had the one he won the Oscar for best director. Which escapes right now because I'm really tired and sweaty because we don't have the fan in the room. Anyway, he's redeemed himself. I don't buy him as Batman still. I still don't. I'm sorry, I don't. He's given this grim look at the suit. I don't buy him as a psychotic vigilante. I just don't.
Why am I trying to find nice things to say about this? I don't know. It's definitely a sign of a turn in my head, which is fine.
No sunshine in this trailer at all.
But there isn't. The whole thing is just dark bullshit. Like I said, the only nice things I can say, I liked the Batman suit.
People were comparing it to the Lego Batman, which is so funny because it does look like
it does. Actually, it does. Now I'm not going to be able to look at it that way. I'm not going to be able to look at it anymore.
That's like the chin strap. Yeah. The big ending to this is the Batman suit. Again, this is like the end of Dark Knight Returns. The graphic novel, which I wish they ever made. Oh, actually, I got to see the cartoon still. Cartoon movie. But Affleck Batman with the voice modulator, which I guess is better than Christian Bale doing it and losing his voice somehow. Do you bleed? You will. Then why are you asking?
Yeah.
If you know the answer. Is Batman the type that would actually say something like that? Now I think about it.
No, I don't think so.
He wouldn't. He doesn't taunt his enemies. He just kicks the shit out of them.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. In Dark Knight Returns, I remember them basically just.
Batman didn't say a word. In his head, he was thinking...
They just threw down.
Finally, after all these years, Clark, fuck you. But he didn't say anything.
They just threw down. They just fought.
Again, great. Snyder doesn't even get Batman. You think he doesn't get Superman, he doesn't get Batman then.
No, he doesn't get either of them. And
this is what I don't get.
He's not going to get a fucking...
I don't care. This is for all the comic fanboys about the way if Batman has preparation time, he can defeat anyone. And all it needs is some kryptonite. I don't fucking care still. A Superman versus Batman fight's not exciting to me. It's just, I mean, it's not. Because you know that Superman's holding back and he can kill Batman in a nanosecond if he wants to.
And you know where it's going to go. You know that the fight's not going to fucking mean anything.
They're going to team up.
Because they're going to team up.
It looks like this movie is going to be about, you have Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor saying some stuff, and I don't buy the voice. He still sounds like that kid, the kid from, Zombieland.
Mm-hmm.
I was confusing with Michael Cera because to me they're the same person. But, he says, they're going to turn on you because you're more powerful, blah, blah, blah. First of all, I don't think, was Superman ever let a statue like that get built? Would he be comfortable with that? Anyway.
No, I don't think and that's the other thing. People don't get it. I don't think I don't think he wouldn't let people...
Look at him as a god.
Right. In the beginning where they're talking about this, Superman wouldn't let people hold him in that esteem. He would disappear.
Sure.
He would come back to save you, but... I mean, Superman's not... Yeah, he that's not what he's looking for.
So, I'm not saying this whole DC Universe cinematic continuity is going to be a failure. But again, Snyder's not the guy to hold it in the palm of your hand. He just isn't.
Well, there are people out there who fucking love the guy, but I have to question their taste.
So, we'll see you again in 3-4 months of the Comic-Con trailer comes out for more Ian commenting.
When the hell is this coming out? Can it just be over?
Well, they pushed it back a couple weeks to get away from Civil War, so I think it's next May or June. It's coming out, or April, around there. It's around there. Screw it. What about any thoughts on Olivia Munn being cast as Psylocke?
I'm not even sure this is a topic because it's not going to be longer than a minute. I think it's fine. I think it's fine.
Is this stunt casting to you?
No, I mean not really. I mean, whatever. Psylocke's role, I don't even know what it's going to be in Apocalypse. Because the X-Men movies lately, though good, have not stayed particularly faithful to source material.
Not at all. I mean, she can show up for maybe 30 seconds. Gambit's going to be in it. You know, we know that.
Yeah, I mean, really, dude, I have nothing to say about this. I don't care.
Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum. I like Psylocke as a character in the books. I don't think Olivia Munn is a bad fit looks-wise. I mean, I don't know. What am I supposed to think about it?
Well, I don't know. I've never been impressed with Olivia Munn going back to G4. I mean, this isn't a bash Olivia Munn thing, but I personally never saw the appeal.
I don't even know that I've ever seen anything with her.
I mean, Frank loves her because Frank, believe it or not, used to watch G4 every night. You know, until isn't that bizarre? Like he knew about some stuff. He knew about Assassin's Creed. I was like, how do you know about that?
Okay,
because I watched G4. He used to watch G4, which was weird. So we'll see what happens. And that comes out again next year's going to be stacked. Every year stacked with superhero movies.
Yes.
All right, so this is bizarre and strange, and I saw a tweet saying, why come up with anything original? I guess
I think this is going to be Netflix's first swing and a miss.
I don't know, because I'll be watching.
Why? That's the topic.
I loved Full House.
I fucking hated it.
And of course, when it ended, we were like, we want to see the story continue. And Netflix is going to be providing that next year with Fuller House.
What a service they are doing for America.
So this is going to be centered on the DJ character.
Yes.
Who was Candace Cameron, who is now Candace Bure, she did marry Pavel Bure of the Canucks. I don't know if they're still married or not. Kirk Cameron's little sister.
Yes.
She was the older sister on the show, oldest sister. So as we center around her character, DJ Tanner, recently widowed, much like the father originally. I remember watching the first show when it premiered. And pregnant veterinarian. Her younger sister and aspiring musician, Stephanie Tanner, Jodie Sweetin. I thought she would have went to science or something. She was always a little science kid, I thought. And her childhood best friend, Kimmy Gibbler, who was good on the show. I liked Kimmy. Along with Gibbler's feisty teenage daughter Ramona, moving to help DJ raise her two sons. Rebellious 12-year-old JD and neurotic 12-year-old Max, because you can't have a normal kid ever. And soon-to-arrive baby. Because you want to have Mary-Kate and Ashley on the show, who looks like they're trying to get back on the show. Stamos is set to produce the show and reprise his role as a guest star, and they're trying to get back Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, Dave Coulier, and Bob Saget, and Lori Loughlin on the show. So the show's going to be made. It's just at this point putting the pieces together and see what happens.
Well, according to Lori Loughlin, they said that they don't really know. They know who's on the show, and they haven't really been talked to. They said that there was word that they wanted them on the show, but it's so very much in limbo that they have no idea what's going on.
They don't know how it's coming together yet.
She said that she doubts the Olsen twins have any interest in it. She said, but if they did, she said it probably wouldn't be money. It would just be because they wanted to do it.
They're gajillionaires.
Yes, exactly. Well, I think that was what she was implying.
They haven't been in anything since past probably 12 years.
That's what she was implying. It was if it doesn't matter how much money they offer them. If they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it.
Sure.
That's basically what she was saying.
They had that empire with PlayStation games and toys and everything and dolls and
memory cards. Maybe
they had all the VHS stuff. Memory cards, really?
I don't know.
My biggest question is, will this be a traditional sitcom? Since I can't picture Netflix having a studio audience and doing like a single shot show, sort of like Modern Family, where shoot it like that, where it's like, that's the question to me, and whether the show can survive not having a studio audience, or can they make it clever enough to shoot it like a Modern Family show and have the writing be good enough to actually, make it like that. What's interesting is that Bob Saget, who's an extremely filthy comedian. Even in the 80s when he was casting the show, all his fellow comedian friends thought it was the biggest joke ever. This guy's the filthiest guy. He's playing a wholesome father. Yeah. He's coming. If he comes back to the show, we'll see. The original show, though, one of the things the show was enjoyable. I watched when I was a kid. Everyone watched TGIF. The worst part, though, was that you had the tender wrap-up moment in the last 5 minutes always, when it was like, here's the heartfelt, here comes the music, sit on the bed, this is what you did wrong. The reason I hate sitcoms, and Frank hates sitcoms, and why you should hate sitcoms, they are based upon lies and deceit.
Yeah.
There's always some deception going on, or some weird thing that tries to get covered up, and it always comes back to bite him in the ass. That's most sitcom plots. And we really need another round of that for this version of the show, or again, will they go in some weird direction? That's all. I just think it's interesting. Obviously, you don't care.
No, I really have no interest in this whatsoever. I will not pay it any attention.
Whatever happened to predictability? Newsman, the pen boy.
I think we've found it right here with another rehash of a TV show. That's predictable.
Time for the Q&A on the CU podcast. This is from at BLH Productions. So what do you think? I guess, what do you think about Goodwill taking bids on select items like game systems? Well, they've been doing this for like 6-7 years at least. Goodwill's auction site for everything. It just means that you don't find them in the stores anymore. Depending on your area, nothing's in the stores anymore at your Goodwill.
No.
They take it off the shelves. I mean, it's good for Goodwill. They're going to get their maximum profit if they put it online. What's interesting, though, is that 6 years ago, you could still get deals. 5 years ago, you could still find deals.
Right.
One of the last big games I got or needed was Swordmaster. One of the rarest NES games that no one ever talks about is Swordmaster. You probably only seen it in your shop like twice. Less than a Zombie Nation,
Yeah,
And,
I've seen. Yeah, I think twice is actually exactly how many times I've seen it.
and I got it in a Goodwill auction. At the time, the game was only worth about $30, maybe $35. I got the Goodwill auction lot, 20 NES games with Swordmaster for like $30. Recoup my costs. Since then, though, even the past 3 years, you can't get a deal anymore. There's no hidden Goodwill auctions anymore.
No.
If there's a Dinosaur Peak that's not listed, even in the auction, everyone's looking at every picture and searching it out. If there's a Steam event that shows up, it'll be found there.
With the Goodwill auction site, the thing is, yes, less people's eyes are going to be on it than eBay, but enough eyes are going to be on it to ensure that you do not get a deal.
And plus, there's less auctions in overall, so there's more. It's like the magnification on those,
Sure.
and they're all resellers. I look at some of these auctions, and I wonder how any of these sellers can make any profit. Are they making a 4% profit margin? Are they all killing each other to go out of business and driving each other into the ground? I don't know how they're making a profit. I'm just being honest. It's like I don't get it. I add it up in my head. I'm like, okay, this is worth this. I'm like, that leaves like $20. They're spending $250 to make $30.
No,
it doesn't make any sense.
I have to explain that to people all the time. As a matter of fact, I did today. And it's an innocent enough question, but I had two guys who were coming in looking at Nintendo and Super Nintendo stuff, and they were picking up some titles. And they asked a very common question. Do you guys order stuff? Do you guys get stuff off eBay? Do you go to flea markets? Do you or is it all trade-in? And I'm like, I said, ever since I've worked here, everything has been trade-in. And even more so now, I explained to him, I said, guys, if I went to the flea market to pick up stuff to sell here, 50% of it, I'd be paying more than I charge for it. I'd be losing money. And the stuff that I do find for cheaper than I sell for here, I'm not going to make any profit off. I'm going to make minimal profit off of.
Yeah.
And this is why it ties into that question we always get, like, how do you open a video game store? Modern times, you don't. Unless you have your own collection that you're willing to sell off, you can't open a retro game store. Why? Because you can't possibly get the stock at a price that's going to let you sell it for a profit.
Unless you take a loss on your starting inventory.
Right. And you would have to take a huge loss on it and hope that you offer good enough buyback prices that you get some trade-in rolling
so that
in your area.
You're working at an operating loss for the first year or a year and a half.
Easily. Yeah.
This is at That Ass Is My Boss, which is a great Twitter handle. Your printer trouble reminds me of the Game Boy printer. So I must ask, what's the weirdest game peripheral you've ever used? Rolling Rocker's up there. That's for sure. That's a really strange one.
Sure. I think I, just for novelty's sake, once used, what did they call it? Shock and Rocker for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Or Shock and Rock, your Rolling Rocker comment threw me off. I think it's called Shock and Rock, and it was just a dock for the Neo Geo Pocket Color with more booming speakers and a fatter handle.
I always had those the Game Boys.
Yeah, and I think they had worked some sort of rumble in somehow, which is funny because the Neo Geo Pocket Color does not have any rumble support, so I don't know how they were doing it.
Maybe sound effects, maybe
that's probably what it was actually. Anything that was slightly bassier, maybe they amplified so that you at least felt it.
No treble, all about that bass.
Oh god. But yeah, I mean, that's probably the weirdest thing I've used. Along with other handhelds, like I did have the entire like fold-out nonsense fucking thing for the original DMG because, you know, a relative got it for me for Christmas.
Now the weirdest thing is still in that closet that you helped document for me for the epic 7-part Pat's Ultimate Video Game Collection series. You love shooting that.
No.
That was already, we were shot that 2 years ago.
Oh,
that was
good.
2013. Something.
Good.
That was a fantastic time.
Uh-huh.
Great times. I think we should do another update. Of that. And so anyway, that's going to be a rainy NES Punk day that peripheral will come out.
I will say real quick, weirdest one I used, Ridge Racer for JogCon.
That's the...
It's the one with a wheel in the center, a jog wheel in the
I
center.
should have got that at Portland. I saw it at Portland.
I think I have 2 floating around my house. If I have an extra one, we'll discuss it.
I've never seen it.
We'll discuss it.
I've never seen it in person.
So it has a jog wheel in the center. What's interesting about it, and I've actually beaten Ridge Racer close to 100% using the JogCon, even though it's not particularly intuitive. It actually has force feedback. So it does like wrestle with you on turns, which is really fucking cool. And I have used the NegCon as well, which was also a Ridge Racer controller.
Is that the gray one? It's on the side?
It's got a pivot in the center, and you kind of twist.
I don't know if I haven't seen that
Kind
one.
of twist like that to move. So those would probably be the weirdest peripherals. That and Samade Amiga maracas. Shit, the more I think about it, the more weird peripherals I've used.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at over there at the side. It's some of them. I mean, that super controller is really weird. That's
Sure.
you just place it on the NES controller.
I've had those.
The docking bay one where you just literally throw the controller in the bottom of the joint. It's the cheapest thing ever. I don't know how they got away with it. You put it's a docking bay for the NES. I have one somewhere. You put the controller inside the bottom of the joystick, and so it just hits the buttons on the NES pad. So it's not really its own controller. It's just like a huge casing for the controller.
Mm-hmm.
And hell, all the QuickShot NES controllers, the huge ball QuickShot controller, which I always thought was a rollerball. It's not a rollerball.
It clicks.
It just clicks.
It's weird.
8 ways. It's so bizarre. Like, why would you use that?
What game did they have in mind for that?
I think they went halfway saying we can't do a rollerball. It's too expensive. We'll just lose the plastic casing for that.
Trackballs aren't that fucking expensive. It's not like there's a lot to them.
All right. Next is at Cinepulsive. Have you beaten a game if you don't own 100% it? Absolutely,
Yes.
you have. What is this fucking homework?
I
You got to go through every nook and cranny of a game and spend 40 hours.
fucking despise the idea that you haven't beaten a game if you don't 100% it. Some of that shit for 100% is frustrating. I'm playing games to have fun. If I've seen the ending credits roll, I've beaten it. I don't have to have everything unlocked. I don't have to have all the time trials perfect. Like I said, if you've gone through all the levels, if you've played through the game, if you've seen the end credits, you've beaten it.
What ass is trying to step to you just like, oh, you're not a real gamer? You didn't spend 8,000 hours on Skyrim or something? Like, it's like, what is this, work?
In fact, I think I've only ever 100%ed one game, and it was R-Type Final.
I 100%ed Contra. That's what I 100%.
Yeah. This is from John Bender. Did you fight the crowds on Record Store Day? Has the special release list gotten too big, taking the fun out of the day? Absolutely. It has taken the fun out of it for me. Record Store Day started off as a very small, very cool thing. And honestly, for the owners, it's still cool for them, and I want these businesses to make money. I always want record stores to be around. I want physical shops, and they make a lot of money on Record Store Day. But the problem is it has outgrown itself. The release list, so to explain to you, someone who doesn't exactly know how it's done, on Record Store Day, they release a shitload of exclusives. Okay, there's nationwide exclusives, which generally tend to come in, they're generally easy to find. And then there's regional exclusives, which get very difficult to find. And basically people line up at record stores now, and it's like fucking pre-ordering an amiibo or crushing for a new system. It's just a mess of humanity pouring into a store, literally just grabbing everything they can and destroying the bins. I don't like crowds. I don't like stressful situations. I love records. There's always some exclusives I want every year. You know what I do? I wait 2 weeks until after Record Store Day, when the scalpers realize they can't get the high prices they're asking, and before the prices go back up again, they will dip, and I pay the $10 more than what I would have at Record Store Day, and I get what I want, and it saves me the fucking hassle.
Scalpers everywhere, scalpers.
Yep.
At Dave Van Dam Net. Ooh, Van Dam Net? Is that like your one-stop site for Van Dam
I
news? Since the PS4 and 1 have no backwards compatibility and very few exclusives, do they hold any advantage to a PC with a gamepad and big TV?
I would say yes, and it's the same answer I've always given. Consoles are pretty much idiot-proof. I'm kind of a computer idiot. You drop a game into a console, even with an install now, it installs, it plays. Well, providing it's not broken out of the gate. I don't want to have to worry about my computer specs running a certain game.
Sure.
I realize that at some point I probably should make a transition slowly to PC gaming. There's a lot of stuff on there that I would like to play. But as of right now, something like a PS4 for a modern day console is just fine for me because I plopped out on my couch, turn it on, no worries.
What about the Steam machine? That looks like a nice sort of in between.
Powerful,
not too much money.
Not on my radar, but
somewhat idiot proof because you're not going to be installing lots of software on it or doing much with it.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, I'd definitely look into that, but I don't know.
And that should be powerful for the next 4 or 5 years. What's interesting to me is that how much more power you need year after year. It's like you think there'd be an ending point, but it just keeps going up and up.
Well, they keep finding ways to push it. I mean, so, and games are fun, and games are a good way to show off what you can do with this newfound power.
Yeah, GTA 5 and PC, I mean, full specs, obviously, it blows away anything on the,
oh, sure.
The Xbox One or PS4. This is a very interesting question from @Niemla. Hey, Karen. Could there have been an NES mouse, and how would it have changed anything?
Yeah, there could have been. I mean, I guess. I mean, I'm sure the technology could have been there.
We have the technology. We could make it better.
Yeah, it would have been great for certain games. Off the top of my head, Maniac Mansion needed a mouse.
Any of the point and clicks. King's Quest 5?
King's Quest 5.
Shadowgate.
I was going to say the Mac Venture series, so Shadowgate, Uninvited, and Deja Vu. Even games like Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune, where you have to pick letters or something. Click, click, click,
God.
instead of...
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, instead of searching around. So, yeah, I mean, great call. There could have been, there should have been, and it would have made a lot of games more playable.
Hell, even for golf games, it could have been nice.
Yeah, sure. No, there's a lot of use. I mean, there's a lot of uses for a Nintendo
How
mouse.
about the prototype, which has never been found though, but they were developing it, the SimCity on the NES? That would have been perfect for that.
Yep, that would have been good for one.
Even games like North and South. Yeah, why not? Any really RPG, mouse in one hand, controller in the other, that would work fine. It would have been nice.
Smash TV could have been cool with a mouse and one controller, so you could constantly shoot in the direction that you wanted to and move.
How would you do it with the mouse though?
Cursor, I guess.
I never liked aiming with cursors, but just the two D-pads.
Bard's Tale could have.
Yeah, anything like that. It'd be cool if someone could develop one. That would be. I mean, obviously you have to do a whole new interface, but that would be outstanding, just to see it work.
Did
Videomation, so you can draw?
Did Wrecking Crew have a level creator?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that would have been great.
Sure. Why not? Excitebike, or we can go on. Someone out there make an NES mouse. And surprisingly, that's the only thing that there was never any talk of anyone ever talking about. Hell, a sewing machine, sure, but
a mouse? No.
Mouse, no.
This is from Jared Roberts.
Mr. Jared Roberts.
Mr. Jared Roberts. To you. Thoughts on borrowing video games in today's age compared to kids back in the day? Is there a need anymore? Thanks. I mean, there's a need if there's a need for you. I mean, if you and your friends are buying a bunch of games and you want to swap, yes, it does not feel like it happens like it used to in the neighborhood among kids, but I think that's just because we're older now. Also, with things like sales and whatnot, you can get games back. You can get games cheaper. The other thing I would point out is when a game comes out, especially because a lot of these are so online heavy right now, you want to be in at launch so that you can experience the game at the same time your friends are experiencing, which means that you can't lend your game to a friend because you both are going to need copies to play the online RPG story mode, whatever, at the same time. So I think there are little things that would make lending games difficult. For me, games are too long now to borrow. Like, back in the day, you lend me Rampage, I play it for 3 days, I send it back to you. You lend me a 40-hour RPG, when do you want it back? Because it's going to take me 2 months to get to it.
You borrowed a game from me 3 years ago, I don't even remember which one it was. For 360.
I still have your Fire Pro.
No, it was a 360 game you bought.
I never borrowed a 360 game from you.
I think you did.
I've looked through my library. I have not borrowed a single game from you other than Fire Pro Returns,
We got to play Fire Pro Returns.
which I bought you for your birthday.
We bought it for my birthday like 2 years ago.
Yes.
Was it 2 years ago?
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
I've had it for at least a year.
You've had it for at least a year.
And I don't need it because I have it on my PS3.
And we should. So then, I wouldn't even realize it unless you just said that. I just think it's funny. We should make our characters and we should do that. It'd be
we should. That'd be fun.
fun. This is from at underscore Sean Brennan 4 underscore. Ooh, that's a rough Twitter handle.
Well, underscores.
Have you come across any psychopaths when flea marketing / collecting other than Ian Frank? Yes, but mostly sellers.
He said he loves those guys.
He does love those guys.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
okay.
why. But yeah, mostly the sellers are the ones that are a little bit off the rocker or will flip on you or do something weird. One story that happened, I used to go to swap meet on a Friday. And a Friday flea market at this location is very competitive. Like, this is like where all the sellers for the weekend get their stuff. So you realize that going in. It's a lot smaller, a lot more compact. You run around.
Right.
So I guess there was a seller that had given out his number to me and two other guys. Two other guys that are big sellers. One owns a record store. The other one sells at Mary's swap meets. Now sells this one. And then, so me and this other seller, we usually never compete with each other when we find stuff. You know, if there's stuff we work out, hey, you get that, I get that. It's very cordial. This other guy, though, went out of his fucking mind when he saw us there. So it was like he was trying to hide games. Like, the stuff was in the back of this seller's car. And he was like, oh, this is mine, trying to put it aside. And then me and this other seller were looking at the stuff and just looking at this guy like, what the fuck is, like, what is wrong with you? It's like, we're not posturing, we're not being aggressive, we're just looking at the stuff, we're looking to see what's in there.
That's showing our tail
And this other guy's going out of his mind. And finally, he starts bidding up on the stuff, but he bids against himself. Me and this other guy are keeping our mouths shut because we realize the only way you win a situation like this is not to play.
Right.
For everyone.
Yeah.
You never bid against other people because they'll do it to you, and then you drive up the price of everyone. You either share the stuff or you let one person have it. So we said, all right, I'll give you $200 for stuff. No, I'll give you $300. I'll give you $400. No, I'm not gonna compete against these guys. I got a kid and a wife, and I feel like saying, first of all, asshole, I don't give a shit about your personal life. We all have personal lives, you know. But second, you are being totally out of your mind, and you're bidding yourself up. The stuff, me and the other seller looked at this stuff, and we realized the value of the stuff in there was maybe $350 to $375. He bid about the price it was worth if all the systems worked and all the games were there, and not even accounting for the time. Hey, people that want to sell games, time is money.
Yes.
And so he was going to have to bust his ass to break even or make a little bit of a profit even marking this stuff up. One of the weirdest things I'd ever seen. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
really strange.
Just a case of shooting
Now-
yourself in your own foot.
Another seller was a guy that I'd spent hundreds of dollars on it. Like, I thought it was cool with him. You know, always had a lot of. He always, I got some. You know, like some computer games. Why don't you take a look at this? Sometimes I'll set aside stuff for you to look at before I put it out. I'm like, all right, fine. I mean, nothing gold. He knew what the value of the stuff was, but he'd give me like half value. You know, for half eBay value. So one time he had about 15 or 20 sealed computer games from the 80s. And I love collecting computer games. There were a few of the gold box Dungeons & Dragon games, and there was about 15 or so games that ones I never heard of. And the thing about collecting computer games is that if you never heard of it, it's probably worthless. That's where we are with computer games. Even if the game's hard to find, it's not worth that much. No one's even selling them to even have a price. So he's like, all right, you know, I know what you do. And my first of all, you know what I do. Like, I'm not going to sell these computer games. You know, look at my garage. All the computer games are in there. I'm a maniac. Anyway,
Yes.
I start pricing these games out. And yes, okay, Dungeons & Dragons, okay, these are worth $40, $50 at least. This is good stuff. Okay. No one has them sealed, but okay. Then I look at the other games, $5. There's none on here. This is worthless. This is probably worthless. So I'm not going to go through 20 games. I'm on my freaking phone. Reception is not the best. I said, listen. I'm going to ballpark this for you. And I've been honest with him totally the past before. And I'm usually honest with everyone. I'm like, this stuff is probably worth like $300. So I'm just going to average it out, and I'll give you $150. I'll give you the average. I said some of this stuff is worth $30, $40. And most of this is over here $5. I can't spend an hour and a half here looking at all the prices though. The guy flipped out. He flipped out at me. I didn't say this stuff was worth $20. I didn't say this stuff was worth $10. I said this stuff's worth $300, and I'll give like $150. Even I might have been off $50 one way or the other.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But the bottom line is he flipped out at me. He said, "Oh, you're gonna give me the average price of it." And it's like, all right, asshole. And then he took the box back, put it back away. Didn't offer a counter. Didn't say, "Oh, I know this stuff is worth this." Motherfucker, if you're gonna come in with the attitude, then you price out the games beforehand. Don't let me do the work for you and get pissed or do part work. You do the work then. I'm doing you a favor by spending my time and going through it and trying to educate you and giving what I think is a fair value for it, and then you respond with what you think is fair. Don't blow up at me.
Yeah, I'm on your side here. I mean, honestly, if you think it's worth $300, I'd probably have offered him $200. But what all that really matters is that you flat out told him what you thought it was worth and then made an offer. If he didn't like the offer, that's all he had to say.
Even if he thought I was lowballing him at 150 or so, I think that I think the way in my head, I think I averaged it. If there was 20 games, I think I averaged it at $15 a game, something like that. And I told him like that's how I'm looking at it. So I basically offered him. I think I offered him, something. I think I offered him like $8 per game, or it might have been even a little more. I mean 160. Is that then you do the homework and you do your counter to me. I even said to him, listen, I wasn't trying to be honest. Listen, this is really niche stuff. Not a lot of people are into 80s computer games, and if you sell them to someone else, they might offer you less, they might offer you more, but there's a lot of games in here that aren't worth anything besides what collecting.
Or they're going to pick all the good shit out and leave you.
They're going to take those Dungeons and Dragon gold ones, which they'll be able to sell those maybe. Yeah. They ain't selling the games that no one's ever heard of, even if they're sealed. They're not, because they're just not.
Well, I've experienced that sometimes at work where, people will come in and, they'll have some good games, really good games in the box, and then they have a lot of crap, and I offer them some money, and they're like, well, I know this is worth this and this, and then they don't want to sell it. I'm like, fine, then go sell those to someone and watch your Top Guns and everything else that I actually would have given you money for, even though I have fucking 25 copies of it.
You're
never going to sell them.
You know what? I think I offered him like 180. I think I offered him like $9 a game or something for 20 games. I think I'm getting more angry. Anyway, I never dealt with him again. It was a total disrespect towards me because I spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars and had nothing but, you know what I mean? And then after that, I don't even look in his direction anymore. Go fuck yourself.
All right, take a deep breath.
This is from at Burn-esque. How do you reconcile being a fan of someone and then finding out they did something terrible? That's a tough question, and it's one I struggle with myself. When you talk about people have done some, either allegedly had done some horrific things, like Woody Allen, Roman Polanski are two big ones that are quote unquote geniuses in their fields, and then you find out they're done some horrific stuff. It's really tough sometimes. You can separate the art from the artist, but sometimes it's tough.
Yeah, it's like Roman Polanski and Woody Allen. I don't really have any interest in them because of that. My quick example is from the world of music. On one hand, you have a band like Crystal Castles.
Gary Glitter.
The people don't really seem like likable people. I think they'd probably be annoying, and they've been kind of assholes in interviews, but they have written songs that I like, so I like them because they haven't harmed anyone. They're just shitty kind of assholes. Which is fine. So I can separate that. Yeah. I can separate the art from the people. Now, another band that I really liked, Surfer Blood, allegations came out that he was a woman beater. And now I just can't listen to the music.
Was he ever convicted, or was this the allegation?
That's the thing, and that's what makes this tough. It's allegations, and on my end, because of stories that sort of corroborate, and the fact that he even sort of admitted that some things went down, but maybe not the way that the media was reporting it, I have 3 Surfer Blood record albums now that I can't bring myself to listen to. And they were great albums. They're fucking excellent albums, and I can't do it.
Yeah, it's a toughie. I hate to say it, not that all big artists did something bad, but a lot of the big or most creative artists were assholes.
Yes.
That's just how they are.
I can deal with assholes.
Yeah. You don't want to do something horrific for someone.
Yeah, I can't deal with someone who's going to hit a woman. I can't deal with someone who's going to rape someone. I can't deal with someone who's involved in, bloody crime. I can't do that.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, if we don't watch Naked Gun ever again with O.J. Simpson in it, we can't do
Cesar Hernandez, is it worth buying, collecting different console versions of the same game? Here's my answer. Modern times, no, certainly not. Why would you? Just pick the one that seems like it's going to be better. They're going to largely be the same games. Now, where that is not so true is in the 16-bit era, where games like Aladdin were completely different between the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. Games like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters were very different among the different systems.
Even some of the sports games, like the EA games, were supposedly different, at least in gameplay or some features, like the Madden and NHL ones.
Yeah, I mean, NHL, whether it's true or not, NHL was always considered better on the Genesis. It just always was growing up. Madden was always more of a Super Nintendo franchise. So in that era, yeah, because these developers were trying to play to the strengths of each system. So because of that, you're oftentimes going to get extremely different experiences under the same name. This one's from Todd Matthew, The Low Highway. Thoughts on Jerry Seinfeld calling YouTube a giant garbage can of user-generated content?
What's the deal with YouTube? It's neither tube nor you.
I think
I don't get it.
I kind of agree with him, but I also think he's a giant garbage can. So I don't really care.
I think Jerry's a guy in his, well, I think it's like 60 almost by now. Say what you will about his stand-up. I think his stand-up is good. It's just not my thing. Obviously, the show was good because it had Larry David, who was a genius, a manic genius, working on the show.
Another asshole.
But I love Larry
Yeah,
David.
no, I'm just saying, but another creative asshole.
Yeah, but a fantastic asshole. I mean, Curb Your Enthusiasm is brilliant. And once you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, you realize he was George Costanza, and he was the genius behind Seinfeld.
Right.
That's the difference. Look what Seinfeld has done after Seinfeld. Look what Larry David did. You know, and Seinfeld. The only thing Seinfeld's done is interesting was comedians in cars getting coffee, which is basically just shooting the shit with comedians.
No, he did the B movie.
Oh,
that was great.
And he did that show about. he did that show. He tried to do that show about the wife's. What do you don't like about your spouses? I was like 3, 4, 5 years ago. Yeah, that face. That's the reaction you should have.
Okay.
And then comedians will react to what they're. It was terrible. Anyway, so okay, what is this giant garbage can? I think it's more like a dumpster. There's good stuff in there. You just have to weed through and find it. I mean, when you think about YouTube...
So everyone who watches YouTube is a crust punk who goes dumpster diving.
Sure, why not?
Okay.
Sure, why not?
Okay.
When you think about YouTube, though, I think Seinfeld's looking at it from a way as that 99% of YouTube videos no one is ever going to watch. They're uploaded, and the person that uploads them sees them, or maybe they're a couple of friends. I'd say 90% of videos don't get more than 20 views.
The only things I upload are just... It's simply because I want to share a video over like 10 seconds long. I mean, it's not intended to be viewed. And I think a lot of people use YouTube like that.
And that's probably what he's thinking of. He's not thinking of well-produced content. He's not thinking of stuff, you know, where lots of money gets put in. He's not thinking of high-quality podcasts. You know, he's thinking of just... He's thinking of a very old-fashioned way of thinking of the media versus what it is now. He's not thinking of the potential. He's thinking of how when TV started out, it was basically glorified radio using that you can see the people on. You know what I mean? That he's not thinking of the honeymooners and how it shortly evolved and went from there. You know what I mean? He's thinking of that's what he's thinking of, or even the original films were basically acted out stage plays. The first silent films were stationary camera. You're basically doing a stage production. We just can't hear you. Yeah, that's how he's looking at YouTube and how it was originally conceived, not what it has evolved into. Speaking of Curb Your Enthusiasm,
kayfabe candy ass. Curb Stomp is being banned. Is WWE doing the right thing, or are they just crumbling to over safety PR bullshit? I think they're crumbling to over safety PR bullshit. When you look at the Curb Stomp, it's actually probably a very safe move.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, the foot doesn't have to come down on the head and come down on the upper back, even the neck. But it's like the force is the person driving themselves like face first with their arms. They can brace themselves with their chest. I don't see it being any more unsafe than a DDT.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, it looks high angle and it looks like it could be dangerous, but when you really pay attention to it, it looks like I'm already repeating myself, a fairly safe move. Not to mention that like I mean, you're not actually jumping on the person's fucking head.
Is this more so they don't want little kids doing this to each other?
That's my guess.
But kids have pile-driven each other and killed each other already. So what's the difference?
Well, maybe they're trying to stop that. But, yeah, it's lame. And it's sad because all of these very unique moves, whether you like them or not, you're slowly seeing go away. Like, I used to love Dean Ambrose's old finisher. And
Dirty Deeds.
Yeah, and he doesn't do that
Which was a
anymore.
bulldog driver.
Yeah.
And they got rid of that for a double underhook DDT.
Which is my favorite wrestling move, so it was okay, but for me, but
Enough
I mean,
of the DDTs. That's all I'm going to say.
Huh?
Everyone does a fucking DDT. It used to be the deadly move. Now it's a transition. That's a whole other conversation. I don't want to talk about wrestling, but no, I'll yeah. So on Raw, I did watch a little bit of Raw, and it seems like the less I watch of wrestling, the more my life becomes, I guess, more fulfilling. But anyway, I don't want to let Frank hear that. But he did a lame DDT. Rollins. I was like, oh, that's interesting. He didn't finish with the curb stomp. He finished with like a transition move. I guess that's going to be his new finisher. It was like almost an underhook DDT, but it wasn't.
Raul Romo. Was there any inspiration to be a game reviewer? Also, do you have a mentor who gives you advice? That's you. That's for you.
No, I don't have a mentor. I don't talk to anyone regularly about video game reviews per se. I do talk shop with a few different guys about, I guess, YouTube in general and video production, especially at conventions. But in terms of actually being a game reviewer, I look at myself more as when I do the NES Punk stuff, it's more, to me, short films than video game reviews straight out, to be honest. So in terms of inspiration, I guess you can say in terms of episodic content, that was definitely James. In terms of episodic content, maybe not the tone, obviously, but in terms of doing sort of like, all right, having some sort of like storylines or some sort of bits. But in terms of my direct inspiration, I remember being on YouTube in 2008. In 2008, YouTube was taking off. It was taken off by 2007, and seeing just a lot of horrendous game reviews by. I mean, back in 2007, 2008, it was still sort of a gatekeeper sort of role where video camcorders were still expensive. HD was not adopted. HD really wasn't adopted regularly until about 2012, I'd say. So, yeah, you still needed $500-$600 for a decent camcorder to do standard definition, and you still needed to figure out how to do editing. No one was using After Effects really yet. So not many people were doing it. So who were doing it? Who were making reviews on YouTube were just snot-nosed kids, ignorant kids who didn't know much about old video games, using emulators, using their keyboard. You can hear them clicking the keys and using their fucking Gateway 2000 shitty microphones from like the year 2000, and basically freeballing it and doing awful game reviews. Like really just bottom barrel fucking shit that was getting views just because that's all there was on YouTube. That was the only reason why. So I remember watching one for the Three Stooges. I loved the Three Stooges. I loved their humor. I loved the game. It's not the greatest game, but I think it's a pretty good game for what it is.
My friend John adores that
for
game.
what? To make a game with the Three Stooges, that's the best you're going to do. It's better than the Three Stooges arcade game. That's for sure. And the kid he was probably a 20-year-old, 21, who knows. Not only didn't do any research to figure out that the Three Stooges were a hugely famous comedy act. What the hell are the Three Stooges? Didn't do any research to know that any of the mini games were based upon classic short films, and trashed the game and trashed the whole concept. So he didn't do any research, and then dismissed the game outright. I'm thinking, I could at least do that. But I know about these games. I know about the background. I could do the research, and I could get a camcorder and go back to my limited film knowledge from college and at least do something better than this bullshit.
Right.
So that's what I decided to do. And I didn't get the views right away. I didn't get views. I mean, people think that you can look at number of subscribers I have now. It took me like 2 years to get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, maybe 2.5. It was a long time coming. I didn't get any of those breaks that some other guys did. I'm not bitter about it. That's just how it worked out for me. Mm-hmm. But at the very least, I knew what the hell I was talking about with Baseball Stars and Three Stooges and a little bit with the Black Box games first and Top Secret episode and the Power Pad games. And that first sort of run of games I did, at least try to show that I had some knowledge about what I was talking about. At Necro-C, do you think more games are going to lead towards Mortal Kombat X and Evolve's route on DLC, or do you think this model will crash? I have no idea what he's talking about. You have Mortal Kombat X, you tell me.
So, I've been playing Mortal Kombat X. And it's fantastic. It's a huge evolution for the series. Plays like an actual fucking fighting game, and looks good, and I'm enjoying it. I haven't played Evolve. The DLC model on Mortal Kombat X and Evolve, though, are awful. You buy the game for $60, and you're going to be... You need to know going into these games that you are going to be very, very gently told that a $30 additional investment is going to be required.
What?
Whether it's for maps and weapons and skins on Evolve, or whether it's for new fighters in Mortal Kombat X.
To buy the fighters.
Well, that's what... Dude, they've been doing that since Street Fighter. Yes. Yes. This is the world we live in. Play a modern game. I mean, unfortunately... Or don't. That's a good reason not to. So anyways... I think they're gonna nickel. I think that sort of extreme charge is going. It's not gonna last. Mortal Kombat X is going to make it, and it's gonna make it fine because NetherRealm in the past has always made sure that you get the content you pay for. So it sucks that they charge you this additional $30, but you're not gonna just get 4 characters. You're probably gonna get 8 to 12 more. With Evolve, on the other hand, it's tanking Evolve's sales. On top of the fact that Evolve did not get good reviews. Mortal Kombat 10 got great reviews, as long as you're not playing on the PC. Mortal Kombat 10 got fantastic reviews across the board, and Evolve got really middling reviews. So, and a lot of Evolve's middling reviews are because of things that could fix the game and make it better, is what they're charging for. With Mortal Kombat 10, it's literally additional content that you don't need. I mean, the fact that no fighters have come out yet from Mortal Kombat, I think they start rolling them out in a week, and I've been having a blast with the game, does mean that you can just go out and buy the $60 version and play it and have fun with it. One of the stupid things about Mortal Kombat 10, though, and really if you buy these, it's your own goddamn fault. Mortal Kombat 10 has these things called easy fatalities.
I heard about this.
You can buy 5 for $5 or 30 for $30. And what they do is you still have to be in the proper range, but all you do is hold down R2 and press, I think, like triangle or circle for the 2 different fatalities, and you pull off the fatality. If you can't fucking pull off a fatality, then don't play Mortal Kombat. It's not that hard. They have gotten way more forgiving since the first games. You can even whiff it once or twice and still occasionally pull it off. Like, down, back, forward, triangle is that hard to fucking input as opposed to hold down R2 and triangle? It's just, it's the dumbest shit.
Doesn't get me on the side of Mortal Kombat's a real fighting game when they're selling, let's see the gory cutscene at the end of the fight and we're going to charge you for it. Doesn't instill me with any confidence in want to actually play. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there. It's just really cheap and shitty.
Yeah, and it's really cheap and shitty that all fighting games have been doing this for years. You only
this is the only one that has paid fatalities. Are you kidding me?
Right, and you don't need them because real players are just going to input them. Yes, it's a money grab. But all fighting games have been money grabs for 5 years.
Yeah, well, that doesn't
your problem with Mortal Kombat is deeply more personal than what you're making it out to be.
It's not deeply more personal.
And I'm not even a Mortal Kombat fan. Mortal Kombat 10 turned me into a fan.
Fatality is a gimmick. It's not needed for the game and the gameplay. It's a total gimmick, and now we're going to pay you to have that gimmick access easier. It's just...
Yeah, but it's not hard in the first place.
I know, but either way, it doesn't...
No, it looks stupid. It looks stupid as shit.
I guess that's how they did it on Conan O'Brien when he played it. When Conan get into the video game stuff, they had him play with the 2 guys before the Super Bowl on the teams, and they put in all, I guess, the finishers easily.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know, whatever. It's yeah. I don't think DLC like this is going to be able to support itself for much longer. I mean, when you buy a game for $60 and then they're like, hey... Okay, we're gonna Mario Kart. We're gonna give you half of what we've already sold you again for $13.
Just
great. That's fine. That's fine. You gave me a full game and you want to add 16 more tracks to it? I'll pay you for that. That's less than $1 a fucking track plus new racers. $30 for shit that probably should have just been unlockable in the game.
Yeah. This is from Miss Ayers or Ayers. What role have emulators and free ROMs had in the popularity of retro gaming? Do they affect sales at Luna? We've touched upon this before.
I think we have.
This is almost to me like the sort of, I don't know, it's almost like an MP3 Napster thing where exposure is always good. Now, you can say something's technically illegal, but exposure is good to get people into the scene. And I speak for both of us that emulators and ROMs helped me. I think Ian get back a little bit into it. You know, at least when I was in college, I was playing. You know, when you're in college, you know, you discover the internet. You discover it's not like you have an NES handy or tons of games you can play easily, but you have an emulator you can download.
I did literally not stop playing my NES. So it didn't help me get back into anything. What it did was it helped me explore the larger library. Sure. And then it gave me an idea of what I wanted to go out and buy first and what could wait. I don't know that it's necessarily the same as Napster. I think a Napster thing where it helped. With Napster, you download a song, and for a lot of people, that's good enough. But for a lot of video game players, especially collectors, I think that this actually makes them want to go out and buy the system and play it again. All I can say is that emulators have certainly not hurt our sales. I would argue that they've helped our sales. I can't necessarily prove it, but there have been people who've come in and been like, hey, can I get a copy of that? I played it on my computer and I decided I need it. Well,
retro gaming is as hot as it's ever been.
Yeah.
Prices are as high as they've ever been, so it obviously hasn't hurt. I think it's funny, some people in the comments will just get it when you talk about expensive games. Oh, well, I can get the entire, download all the NES ROMs and I'll play my computer. Good for fucking you. That's not what it's all about.
No, it's different for different people. I can get the entire Aphex Twin library downloaded in 5 minutes onto my computer, but I actually want to go out and find the albums.
You want to experience the cartridge, you want the system, you want the real hardware. Yeah. You want it hooked up to a TV. It's not exactly the same as, I can just download all the ROMs. It's like, it's not even just a sense of accomplishment. It's the affinity you have for them to show, I guess the passion, dedication to show you are, quote unquote, a true fan enough to buy it too. That's part of it.
And I think it's the general rule of piracy still counts here. The people who weren't going to buy from you in the first place are still not going to buy from you. You're not really losing any customers.
No. I always say that about movies. People say about, downloading a movie. It's like, I'm not going to go if I want to see Avengers Age of Ultron, I'm not going to see it on my little shitty laptop.
No.
Or even on my TV with a shitty screener and blow it up and it look terrible, like huge chunky pixels. I'm going to pay money to see in the theater.
Yeah.
You know what I downloaded it to see? Should I say it? When it was leaked because it was terrible. Remember the first Wolverine movie?
Oh yeah, it
was fucking terrible.
Sure.
I
didn't see it,
but that was a morbid curiosity, to see that.
Right.
I would never have paid to see that in the theater. You know what I mean? The reviews were abysmal, and it was abysmal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's something to be said about showing the dedication to do it, because anyone could download 750 ROMs. It takes a fucking maniac. Someone who's out of their mind to do this. That's what it comes down to.
Yes.
And plus it's a story you tell someone. Is it really that impressive? Someone would go, yeah, I'm into Nintendo games. Oh, let's see some. Oh, they're on my computer. Versus, I'll show you the cartridges and the boxes and stuff.
It's a player versus collector argument. There are certain systems that I would buy an EverDrive for and just be done with it. And then there are certain systems like the PC Engine that I'm always going to buy physical copies of games for.
Sure. We have another gift, and this isn't we're not doing this to get you to send us packages, but if you want to, send it to P.O. Box 7695, San Diego, California 92167. That's the Pat P.O. Box, which will also double as the podcast. So we got something special here. I already looked at it before. We're sent a Raspberry Pi, a Pi Tendo, as it's called. Now, a Raspberry Pi. These are like really miniature computers that you can do really whatever you want with. I think they run on Linux, I believe.
Yes.
And here's the power supply for it. Here's the system. So people have been building these as emulator systems.
That's a nice case.
And you can buy ones that look like Nintendo cases too. Like,
that's cute.
I'm not into this at all in terms of I've known about this for a couple of years. My friend AJ, who loves Side Pocket, always tells me all the stuff you can do with the Raspberry Pis. And I don't know the difference between the regular Pi and the Raspberry Pi, but I do know that this is cool because there's an Ethernet cable, there's an HDMI out, there's a USB, power, and 4 USB for hooking up Wow, here's a Super Nintendo USB controllers.
That's cool. That's crazy. So you could do Super Bomberman 2 4 players on that.
Or hell, I mean, you could buy an adapter like I have for the NES to USB and hook up a 4-score in one. I think it would work in theory with the emulator.
It should.
And then play 5 or 6 or 7 games. So this was sent from. What else is in here? Oh, and here's even a nice a nice HDMI cable. So
that is cool.
So this will be cool because first of all, this is what the letter says. Pat and Ian. I'll just summarize real quick. This is from a 33-year-old sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps. Really cool.
Yeah.
Won't say his last name. Don't want to get in trouble. But his name is.
Awesome.
Let's call him Sergeant Ryan.
All right, let's do that.
He's a fan, and he had an extra Raspberry Pi model, B+. I don't know anything about this. Know what that means?
It's the nice model.
He's one of the pioneers of emulation station, which I guess is maybe it's the front end on this.
Oh, okay.
So he's been working since 2013. Blah blah blah. He's built and sold over 40 of these to his Marine brethren. Wow. He says, I'm aware of the legalities of what I'm doing, but my intentions are only to spread the joy of retro gaming to young Marines who've never owned these consoles and don't have the money to drop on original cartridges. Plus, when you're in the desert, you really have to lug around this shit or have
portability.
This. Yeah, I don't care. Furthermore, many of these Marines deploy for 6 to 8 months on naval warships without being able to bring their Xboxes, PlayStations, and my gaming system will fit in your pocket. Speaking from experience, without my Pi Tendo, I would have surely gone stir crazy while aboard the USS Green Bay from September 2012 to May 2013. Holy shit.
Oh.
So what's on here? First of all, thank you, Ryan. This is awesome.
That's really cool. And
now
what's awesome is, that's going to be great for conventions. Like Play the Punk challenges and stuff like
you
that.
You got it. As long as you're in HDMI.
Yeah. Screw hooking up a Nintendo and a power pack and trying to get things to run smoothly.
Or even in your hotel room afterwards, decompressing.
Cool. Perfect.
This is where, you know what? Emulation, when it comes to portability and stuff like this.
Yeah.
So what's on here? Thousands of games. Wow. Even has, you can do save states on here. Controller can rewind, fast forward, turbo. So yeah, fully emulator. 11 plus NES games with box art.
11 plus?
1100 plus, sorry. I guess Famicom as well.
Yeah.
Thousands of games for the 2600, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Master System, TurboGrafx, MAME, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and a couple of Doom and Duke Nukem 3D ports, and a select few PlayStation 1 games. Oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is absolutely awesome. There's instructions about to make sure you shut it off the correct way or you can corrupt the card. He warns me not to do certain things, or else I'll be paying for a new memory card to mail out with me with the games on it. Yeah, thanks a lot. There's instructions, and I seriously want to try this out. You know what'd be cool about this? Hell, we can hook this up to like a big TV.
Yeah.
Just like...
I wonder if it upconverts. I wonder how it looks. Either way, that's really cool. And
thanks a lot.
I was just thinking, for 2600 games, my biggest problem is the freaking controllers on that. Like, if you could just sit down with a regular controller and play a 2600 game, it'd be a whole lot more enjoyable.
Well, I hate to say it. If I need to capture a 2600 game, I ain't fucking hooking up to the VCR and running it. I'm doing HDMI out. This is fantastic. This is like, screw the Retron 5. Let's go Raspberry Pi.
Well, that's what most people have said.
And he sent lots of instructions here. See, here's a picture of the Pi Tendo. You can buy the case for it.
Oh, that's super fucking cute.
You can buy the case. Looks like a Nintendo. I might actually do that. He already gave me this working one.
That's adorable.
So I hope I just didn't send his phone number out when I put that. To blank that out. Because his phone number was there.
Double check. So
hoorah! Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
And thanks for doing what you're doing and making really cool devices, being one of the pioneers of the field. And I'm going to keep this. we'll screw around with this sometime, especially the MAME stuff we can play on the TV. Sure. I want to set up right now. So that's it for this very economical, even though it started late. You don't know that out there in the audience. See You podcast. We have a Patreon for the podcast. It's patreon.com/pixelsicle.
Pixelsicle.
And with that, you can get the entire podcast in video form, as well as some segments that are exclusive on Patreon, as well as some early. And Ian has written for it before on there.
And I will do so again.
He does, yeah. And then we will have a new T-shirt in the future. I will show you the design afterwards. That'll be exciting. And anything else going on in Ian land?
I'm ready to go home.
You haven't had to take a piss, which is really strange to me for once. So for Ian Ferguson, I am Pat Contry. Oh, we'll have a quick announcement now. We'll talk about it more as we go on. We're going to be at Too Many Games.
Oh yeah, we will be
in Pennsylvania at the end of June. So if you're in the tri-state and Pennsylvania area, Be on the lookout for that. We're going to do an announcement video on the YouTubes, and that'll be fun. So don't sign up until you see our announcement video, because I'll have a special link that if you click over, me and Ian get something for that, I think. So anyway, we're heading off. I have a surf burrito in the fridge. It's good to eat at 11:40, but I'm starving right now. So for Ian Ferguson, I am a hungry Pat Contry and tired. Somehow made it through. We will see you next time with hopefully more Zack Snyder news.